Stick with me, you are about to see a legendary master reborn as a lowly servant. They treat him like trash, but they have no idea who he really is. In his past life, he was the greatest sword master alive. After 70 years of training, he has returned in an era of peace where everyone is completely pathetic compared to his skills. He is so overpowered that he just humiliated a high-ranking guard right in front of the master of the house. He knocked the guy out before he even knew what hit him. The master of the castle is completely speechless seeing his best warrior folded like laundry. He used to be a rude scoundrel, but now he is actually training his beautiful adoptive sister. And trust me, he has plenty of experience with beautiful sisters. I mean with swords. He is a total Sigma now, pushing her through a brutal workout. Back in the day, he was the one who made heroes into legends. Mages, warriors, archers, he trained them all. He reached the peak of fame, but he never actually cared about the spotlight. He always felt like a fraud because he had zero natural talent. All he had was a pure, undying love for the blade. By the end of his life, he finally reached true mastery, but it was far too late. Now he is back in a much younger body and ready for some real action. He has no clue whose body this is, but the castle feels very familiar. It is definitely a territory where he served throughout his entire past life. He needs to figure out his new identity fast. But then, he looks to his side and gets a massive surprise. There is a young girl nearby practicing her sword forms. Our hero wonders if she is the Lord's daughter, since he never saw her in his previous life. Her technique looks familiar, almost like a hero's style. She is definitely talented, and she notices him staring, calling out to him as Asher. She demands to know why he is just standing there while everyone else is working hard at their training. Asher asks if that is the Rapina style, and points out her flaws. He tells her to relax and slow it down to fix her unstable form before she gets hurt. Immediately, the girl hurls her sword straight at his head. She snaps at him for being casual, demanding he call her Lady Reika. Asher apologizes, realizing he treated her like his sister from the past. Reika is very suspicious. How does a servant who has never even held a sword know anything about a legendary hero's secret technique and movements? She threatens him, and Asher realizes he overstepped by trying to teach the lady. He walks over to a training dummy and finally picks up a practice sword. The girl watches him closely. Is that the Imperial sword stance? It looks different, yet somehow more perfect than she has ever seen. She wants to know when he learned this, but Asher stays silent. How can he explain he has practiced this for 70 years? Now pay attention, because when he finally strikes, the power causes a massive explosion. This young new body? It is a total cheat code, for sure. He can do anything now. With one single powerful swing, he shatters the heavy wooden training dummy into a million tiny splinters. Reika is stunned, just watching in silence. Asher realizes that when he has a sword in his hand, he just cannot hold back. He apologizes for the mess, but Reika says it is fine. She recognizes it as the Empire's official sword style. She is still skeptical. How could a basic technique have that much speed and raw power? Suddenly she smiles and calls him amazing. She wonders why he hid this talent for so long. She honestly thought he was just a lazy, useless servant, but it turns out she was completely and utterly wrong. Asher gets embarrassed by the praise. But then, an angry man shows up demanding to know what is going on. You and I saw this coming. This dude looks like trouble and is about to make a huge mistake. He tells Asher to go chop firewood, reminding him that he is just a lowly commoner who should never dare to speak so shamelessly to a noble family like theirs. Asher thinks the guy is incredibly rude. The man then notices that the servant is actually holding Reika's personal sword. He decides this is the perfect time for a lesson. He draws his blade and tells Asher to survive for 1 minute. Reika begs him to stop, but the man just scoffs. He says he is not going to kill the poor guy, just teach him a lesson. But Reika is not worried about Asher. She tells her brother that he is the one who will not be able to handle it. Asher just watches, critiquing the brother's terrible stance. How does a talented girl like Reika have such an absolute idiot for a brother? Then, the fight finally begins. A sword flies through the air instantly. The match is over in seconds, and obviously, our protagonist is the one left standing. Asher actually tried to lose on purpose, but it is harder to hold back than he thought. Now the brother has a little blood on his face and is absolutely furious. Things just hit the fan. Not gonna lie, I want to see how our main character is going to get out of this one. The scene shifts, and the brother is demanding a severe punishment. He claims a servant dared to injure the master of the house. He shouts that they cannot tolerate such disrespect to the nobility. The dignity of their house is on the line. The old lord calls Asher forward and asks for the truth. Asher recognizes him as a young guard captain who was appointed roughly 40 years ago. He realizes at least 20 years have passed since his death. The world has clearly changed much more than he thought. Lord Levox says they treated him like a son, but this time he went too far and lost sight of his place. He orders Asher to leave the territory immediately as his punishment. The lady of the house begs the lord to reconsider and do anything but that. But Lev has a short fuse and his patience is gone. You and I just watched a legend get exiled, and trust me, it only gets wilder from here. Alright, stick with me because you and I are about to see an ungrateful brat turn into an absolute legend. He should be glad he is escaping without broken bones. Suddenly, Reika appears, claiming her brother was the one who was wrong. Apparently, he stabbed himself while charging at Asher, who was actually just trying to teach the boy how to use a blade. She calls out her brother's trash swordsmanship as a real disgrace to their nobility. Leo is completely shocked, wondering if Asher was actually giving her lessons this entire time. The girl claims Asher has high-level skills she wants to master herself, plus he has completely changed and committed to her training. Her brother is stunned, asking if she really wants to learn that useless style from a guy like him. She says she saw his skill with her own eyes. If they doubt her, they should just let him show them directly. The crown watches in silence before calling a guard to test Asher's actual level with a sword. Levro tells her not to worry since this is just an evaluation, but you and I know this won't end well. Meanwhile, the old man wonders what trick Asher used to bewitch Reika into believing he actually knows how to fight. If this is a joke, he'll pay with his life. The two prepare to clash while Karen mocks Asher for his arrogance. Even with Lady Benicia watching, the guard refuses to hold back and charges straight at our main character. Reika watches, hoping Asher can hold his own. The guard notices Asher is trembling and asks if he thought this was easy. Since they are here, he will teach him a lesson. The exchange goes full force. Karen thinks Asher hasn't even mastered the basics of being a real swordsman. He calls Asher weak and arrogant for staining the art of the sword, while our hero does nothing but defend. Levox thinks this is too much for Asher. Even Luke says the Academy's top graduate is simply too strong to face. Our boy just keeps smiling. Karen tells him to remember the massive gap in power between them. At that moment, Asher says the guard put on a fun performance and now it's time to return the favor. Our main character raises his blade and sends Karen flying with one single burst of power. Everyone is left in total shock, and the guard can't even process what just happened. Now the tables have turned, and trust me, you and I are about to see just how deep his power goes. Inside his head, our hero wonders why this generation is so weak. He blames peace and decides he must fix their discipline. He looks down at Karen, mocking his title as the leader of the Templars in Arok territory. He asks if he's really falling to a commoner. Furious, the guard charges again, only to get punched right in the face. The entire room is stunned, as the protagonist literally smashes the guard's face into the floor. Karen can't even stand up. Asher calls it disgraceful, remembering how ordinary soldiers back in his day were much stronger. Countless warriors died, fighting demons back then. He realizes that this era of peace has made everyone incredibly soft. But then a group of soldiers rushes him. Benicia begs her husband to put an end to this madness. He looks at our hero and asks who he really is. Things are falling apart since he clearly isn't the old Asher. After a brief silence, he lies and says he lost his memory. It's much safer than admitting he reincarnated. He claims he woke up remembering nothing about himself or them. All he has left is the instinct of a sword. He thought using a blade would help him remember, but he still feels a strange emptiness in his chest. Since he harmed the chief, he drops to his knees and tells them he'll accept any punishment they decide. Silence fills the room. Later, Asher decides to stay in his quarters until things finally settle down. He stares at his sword while Reika walks the halls, feeling like Asher has become a completely different person. Little does she know, she's right. Until yesterday, he was just a vulgar kid who had never touched a blade. He was their mother's adopted son, found abandoned outside the castle gates before the other two were even born. Their mother was depressed and raised him personally. Over time, their bond as a family only grew more toxic. Her mother obsessed over Asher with a strange kind of love, almost as if she favored him over her own blood. Despite her efforts, Asher drifted away and caused nothing but absolute chaos for everyone on the estate. He was almost kicked out, but his mother let him stay as a servant. The original guy was total trash. He was a complete idiot, but then out of nowhere, his speech, behavior, and entire vibe changed. It's as if his whole personality was replaced by something much darker. Now, he acts like a master swordsman who has been training for decades to reach the peak. Reika knocks on his door bringing him some food, but when she opens it, the main character has his sword raised, looking like a cold-blooded killer. He doesn't look friendly at all. Food crashes to the floor as the atmosphere turns deadly. Nothing good can come from this. She's trembling in terror, and trust me, you and I are not ready for what comes next. Alright, you and I are about to dive into an epic story where a weak commoner accidentally almost kills a girl while practicing his sword skills. They stand there in silence. Later, Reika watches him train, realizing the main character is completely obsessed with the way of the sword. Asher eventually asks Reika what he was like before losing his memory, because every person he meets here seems to have a terrible history with him. Reika admits he was a different person entirely. Aside from his mother, his own family and everyone in the castle hated his guts. Violence and destruction were his favorite pastimes. Hearing this, Asher realizes his body's previous owner was a complete monster who went way too far. He asks Reika why she treats him normally instead of hating him too. But she just looks back with a question of her own. She says he is much better now and asks him to take care of her. Asher stays silent, unsure of how to react. Suddenly, a knock at the door interrupts them. It is Benia. And Asher realizes she is the wife of the powerful Leok. Our boy immediately kneels to show respect, but Benia gently takes his face in her hands, telling him he never needs to act like that. Regardless of the past, she raised him like a son. But Asher can only tell her that the boy she once knew is no longer here. She looks at him with pure affection, even though she is a stranger to him. Then, Banata hugs the main character, claiming she found him first. When she was 20, she still had no heir, and that was when she found him abandoned outside the castle walls. One smile from the baby changed her entire world. Against all odds, she chose to raise him with nothing but love and care. Even if he sees her as a total stranger, she will always be his mother. Asher wonders if he can actually start over among people who care this much. Meanwhile, Leok wonders if the main character is actually a demon in disguise. But he quickly brushes it off as a foolish thought. That ancient race vanished long ago. Even if one survived, there is no way it would have any connection to a boy like Asher. Why would a demon stay in a commoner's body? Still, the fact that a child defeated a high-level knight like Karen is something they cannot ignore. Now pay attention, this is where the story gets wild as a legendary figure suddenly appears to crash the conversation. A hooded man is perched on the window. The guards immediately rush him, demanding to know who has dared to intrude. He blocks the strike with ease and mocks their sword skills. The hooded man then tosses the guard aside, noting that the soldier is simply too old to fight him. Confusion fills the room. But in that moment, Karen's eyes widen as she finally recognizes exactly who this mysterious man is. Leok welcomes him home after 20 years. This is the legendary swordmaster known as Esther Hibben. Isn't this the man the main character knew in his past life? Leok asks where he went, as everyone assumed the great master had died 20 years ago. He claims he was investigating the ends of the earth. He found nothing but trouble out there, and he still hasn't discovered the full truth of what's coming. He changes the subject, asking about the boy who defeated one of Leok's knights. The Lord confirms the rumors are true. What makes it crazier is that he is just a commoner who never even held a sword before. Hibben is intrigued by this exceptional talent. Meanwhile, Asher is already pushing Reika to attack him with everything she has. She asks why he hasn't even drawn his blade yet. Asher simply tells her that real combat isn't just about sword skills. Real fighting begins before you even draw your weapon. He tells her she must come at him with the intent to kill, despite him being a commoner. Trust me, you're about to see how strong her determination really is. The girl charges in, but Asher dodges every blow with ease. He realizes she has talent, but her current movements are just too weak and predictable. Reika hits the ground hard. Asher offers a hand, telling her she is strong with a blade, but that isn't enough. Before mastering the sword, one must master the mind and body. Real combat is a completely different world from practice. She must abandon her blind faith in techniques. Pure swordsmanship alone will never be enough to survive a life or death struggle. She needs to learn to control her emotions and stay calm. As he gives instructions, Reika realizes his mastery of the sword is absolutely perfect. She stands back up and the real training begins. By the time they finish, the poor girl is left completely exhausted. His stamina is monstrous and he never loses. Yet through the pain, she can feel herself getting much stronger. Her brother Luke arrives and insults her for playing around with an idiot. Reika snaps back that this is serious training. The two keep arguing until Reika finally loses her patience. She draws her sword right then and tells her brother to shut his mouth already. The boy starts trembling in fear. He warns her that if she actually strikes him, there will be hell to pay. Another person breaks in, mocking the sibling rivalry. It is Hyen, noting that seeing a sister threaten her brother is a rare sight. Leok warns his daughter to stop. Reika looks at the newcomer, sensing an extraordinary power radiating from the old man. Luke identifies him as a swordmaster, leaving Reika in total shock. There are fewer than 10 in the Empire. Luke begs to become his disciple, believing only a master could teach him. Trust me, you and I know he is going to regret ignoring the real master standing right in front of him. Alright, stick with me because we are about to watch a legendary master meet his match in the most unexpected way. Hibben sizes up Reika, realizing this girl isn't intimidated at all. She looks ready to strike, making him wonder if he should give her a real test. Right then, Hibben goes for his blade, while the crowd watches in total silence. Reika doesn't move a muscle, questioning if this old man is actually a master. She remembers the main character's training keeping your cool in front of any enemy is the most important rule of all. The man draws his massive greatsword, but let me tell you, this girl is completely locked in. Unbelievably, she blocks the heavy strike, leaving even Hibben completely stunned. Usually, he uses his overwhelming pressure to crush new talents and see how they react. Most people just run away in pure terror or break instantly under the weight of even his lightest blow. Yet this young woman stood her ground with nothing but a wooden sword. That is the true determination of a warrior. They break apart, and she charges him instantly. He watches her in silence, wondering if she belongs to that legendary Ravinia school. He admits she is truly impressive before counterattacking. Reika hits the dirt, completely spent and unable to find her breath. Hibin levels his sword at her, until Lavak steps in to stop the madness. He insults his cowardly son while calling the daughter brave, which absolutely destroys Luke's pride. But then, Reika stands up again and grips her sword, ready to keep the fight going. Watch this. Because this girl absolutely refuses to quit. Hibin vanishes and reappears behind her, praising the fact that she actually tried to counter him while he was distracted. She is totally lost, but then Hibin asks to meet her master. Reika says yes, thinking this guy is clearly not human. She used every ounce of her strength, but he brushed her off like she was a complete beginner. Even her father is walking on eggshells around this mysterious man. Raven asks Reika what it really felt like facing that young man's legendary swordsmanship. She says it felt like fighting a battle-hardened veteran. The man just laughs, since the boy is only 18. Minutes later, they arrive at the old training grounds. He once trained here with a great friend who is unfortunately no longer among the living. And trust me, he's talking about our main character. Meanwhile, the protagonist is busy training. Reika arrives, and Asher is floored to see his old friend standing right there. He realizes Hibin must have some deep connection with Lavak. Turns out, a young Lavak once begged Hibin to look after him. Hibin is thrilled the boy recognizes him and draws his sword with a grin. Asher knows this habit well. He's testing talent again. It has been a long time, but Asher draws his own blade. Hibin is left speechless by the flawless technique. He flashes back to the main character saying his skills were nothing. But they just took different paths. He suggests a quick spar for the sake of old times. They clash with a sense of camaraderie, and Hibin feels that same familiar energy coming from the boy. Little did he know this is the exact same guy. Then, he suddenly calls Asher the captain of the guard. Everything goes silent. He asks Asher if he is actually that legendary man's secret disciple. But our boy just plays it cool and says he has no master. Now pay attention, because this is where the offer of a lifetime happens. Hibin asks if he wants to be his disciple. Reika tells him to hold on. Even for a master, attacking people out of nowhere is insane. She demands to know why he thinks he can just swing on anyone. Lavak tells her to watch her tone, but Hibin just says he will show them his true power. Suddenly, a massive tornado erupts. Asher recognizes the true aura of a master. Hibin swings his blade at a distant mountain, triggering a massive, earth-shaking explosion. The entire mountain was literally erased from existence. He tells Asher they are destined for the top. So, will you finally become my disciple? Reika is mesmerized by the power, but then Asher does the unthinkable. He turns him down. The crowd is stunned as the city celebrates the master's arrival. Everyone is desperate to see him, but the guards are holding them back. Asher asks why Hibin isn't out there. He just wants to stay and try one more time. Asher says no again. The guy is becoming way too clingy. He suggests teaching Reika instead, but she looks completely miserable about the idea. Hibin already asked, but she refused because she's loyal to her current master. So what do you and I take from this? She gave up a god-tier master just for him. Alright, you and I are diving into a world where being talentless might just be a secret superpower. After all, there was no need to go that far, right? Luke was fuming, blaming every single one of his problems on Hibin. To him, that guy was the reason his life had become a total disaster. But get this, blaming others is always easier than facing reality. Right then, something lunges from the shadows and snatches the poor guy up. The massive beast just laughs as everything goes black. A moment later, we see Luke waking up on the cold ground, completely lost and confused. Suddenly a mysterious hooded figure calls his name. He says it is a pleasure to meet him, but man, he does not look friendly at all. Meanwhile, Reika is absolutely furious. She is venting her rage, claiming she cannot stand that old man, or his complete lack of respect for anyone. Asher is not bothered by the old man's attitude. Having reached the level of a master swordsman himself, he thinks Reika could actually learn a lot from a legend like Hibin if she just listens. But Reika is stubborn. She wants to be just like Asher, the person she looks up to as her one true master. That was honestly a beautiful moment, but Asher still struggles, convinced that he has zero natural talent for the way of the sword. In this world, heroic swordsmanship is the peak, created by legends to surpass human limits. Every fighter dreams of mastering those mythical techniques. Asher was different though. He only knew imperial swordsmanship, a basic, simple style created by the empire for the common masses. It was the only art someone like him could actually learn. So, he spent his entire life swinging a blade, using nothing but that basic imperial style. He could not understand why a genius like Reika respected him so much. But in her mind, Asher was the one who had truly pushed her to become strong. She would have crumbled under the old man's pressure before, but Asher's lessons were her saving grace. To her, he is basically her guiding light. Now hold on you and I can see exactly where this is going. Suddenly, Hibin appears, teasing them about a lover's quarrel. Asher tells the old man to stop being ridiculous. Then he notices something strange in Heben's hand, a special gift meant specifically for our protagonist. Since Asher does not care about the weapon's shape, he can use any gear. Imperial swordsmanship is all about building a solid, versatile foundation. That is the total opposite of heroic styles, which rely on superhuman moves. The big advantage? Heroic styles only work with swords, but Asher's Imperial training allows him to master any weapon he picks up. Heben hands over a set of iron gauntlets, but these are not just ordinary armor pieces. He tells Asher to focus his strength and imagine any weapon he wants to wield right now. Asher follows the instructions, and boom, a deadly dagger appears in his hand instantly. This is spatial magic for weapon storage. To put something inside, you just have to visualize it happening. It is an incredibly rare and useful tool for any warrior. It only stores weapons, though. Asher realizes it is perfect for him, but useless for most swordsmen who are obsessed with their specific blades. When asked why he made it, Heben reveals it was actually for an old friend who passed away before he could ever receive this special gift. Reika asks if it is that guy from 20 years ago. Heben nods, admitting he really liked that man because he also walked the difficult path of Imperial swordsmanship. He accepted his lack of talent and simply never gave up on his own journey. Asher always thought the talentless were worthless to heroes. But this gift proves that someone actually cared enough to create something incredible for them. Heben tells Asher he is the spitting image of that old friend. From his behavior to the way he speaks, it is all exactly the same. Even his posture and sword style are identical. Heben admits he is actually jealous and asks one more time for Asher to become his disciple. Our protagonist finally smiles and accepts the offer, even though he insists it will only be a temporary arrangement. Pay attention here, because their duel is about to get absolutely serious. Reika can tell that Asher is finally satisfied with his new gift. On top of that, he just gained a master with a truly legendary and incredible reputation. As the fight rages on, we cut back to that hooded man. He heard a rumor that a legendary swordmaster was in town and came to investigate for himself. Luke demands to know who he is. The man is from the Motorola Assassin Guild, looking for permission to set up shop in this territory. Luke recognizes the name. It is the most notorious assassin guild from 50 years ago. This changes everything for him. He wonders why such a powerful group is in a small territory like this, but he quickly sees an opportunity for a dark alliance. He grants them permission to stay, but only if they agree to his twisted condition. Trust me, I can already tell this is not going to end well. The assassin smiles, waiting for the details. Without a single second of hesitation, Luke orders him to hunt down and kill our protagonist. I knew it. The assassin just laughs at the request while the epic battle between Asher and Heben continues. Neither of them is willing to back down. Asher charges forward with everything he has, finally landing a solid attack. But a single strike is not enough to take down a swordmaster. Heben is impressed, noting that Asher's movements are nearly perfect. Asher tells him that is all he has to offer. Heben tosses the boy aside, but Asher recovers his footing instantly. The man sighs, saying it is a shame Asher lacks the natural talent for those legendary heroic styles. He stares at Asher before our hero suddenly grabs one of his hidden daggers. It seems he has fully adapted to using tools. Asher explains that is why he needs these tricks. As days pass, the training with Heben gets even more intense. He is still teaching Reika too. Asher knows she has way more talent than him, but Heben just sees his old friend's stubborn personality in the boy. So what do you and I take from this? Talent does not matter when you are this dedicated to your own path. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a story where a talentless nobody becomes a total legend. Right now, Asher can't believe what he's hearing from the master, Heben. Heben was the guy everyone called a genius. But get this, that arrogant master changed his entire worldview in just a few years because of our main character. Just then, Reika shows up, and she's looking surprisingly formal. She announces a guest from the Empire, but Heben was already expecting this troublesome little group. Soon after, a squad of soldiers is kneeling, begging Heben to return to the capital. He expected the guard's successor, but apparently, he's busy elsewhere. Heben finally gives in, admitting he was planning to head back anyway. Since it's late, they'll leave tomorrow. With that settled, Heben tells Lev it was great seeing him again after all this time. He also tells Reika it was a pleasure, hinting their paths will cross again. Reika is left completely speechless by his words. Suddenly, we get a flashback to the main character training in his original body. Someone tells him he's got zero talent and should just quit. But Asher isn't having it. He's not stopping for something as small as a lack of talent. He tells her to stop watching and just get lost. This girl, Lafinia, drops some brutal advice. She says his talent is pathetic and he'll never achieve anything. Why's she gotta be so mean? She claims he'll end up as a third-rate swordsman at best. But then, the protagonist wakes up it was all just a dream. Still, that past life memory leaves a bitter taste. Lafinia was the youngest swordmaster ever, and she truly believed he was a failure. But what she didn't know is that he actually became a master before he died, and even trained a potential successor. He knows she was dead wrong. Just then, Hyben appears, asking why he's training so late. Asher says a nightmare kept him up. Hyben explains he's leaving for the Empire at dawn, so he's already awake. Now pay attention, because this is where things get heavy. Hyben reveals he spent 20 years looking for contradictions in this world, and after meeting Asher, he thinks he's finally found exactly what he was looking for. The protagonist goes on high alert, as pure bloodlust fills the air. Hyben draws his sword and strikes right at him. But wait, he wasn't the target. Hyben was slaying monsters lurking behind him. This was the truth he'd been chasing. These things are demons. They've been relentlessly stalking Hyben from the shadows this whole time. Asher is confused. These creatures were supposed to be banished by the heroes who defeated the Demon King. Hyben confirms that's the official story. The entire world believes all darkness and monsters vanished 20 years ago. But that's a total lie. The demons are still here, hunting anyone who might expose the truth. Asher decides to handle these guys first. Priorities, right? The demons charge, but they've got no idea they're fighting a total beast. He uses his special glove to transform his sword into a spear, wiping out the entire pack in one move. Watching from the side, Hyben is stunned. Those movements, they're exactly like a seasoned veteran's. It's like seeing his old friend again. This kid isn't just ordinary, he's got massive talent. Once the demons are cleared, Hyben admits he actually suspected Asher was a demon in disguise at first. He thought he was a mimic who had eaten Jinwoo's memories. But a demon could never copy human swordsmanship at that level. Asher really is the spitting image of his late friend. Now, Hyben must head to the Empire to sound the alarm. He also needs to find the missing hero. He hopes they'll meet again soon for a long talk. You and I are probably wondering the same thing as Asher now. Did the hero really fail to kill the Demon King? 20 years ago, that hero appeared like a comet and saved the world from the flames. But then he vanished, abandoning his people and his lands. Where could a hero like that even go? If he failed, how has the world stayed peaceful for 2 whole decades? No matter the secret, Asher's goal doesn't change. He'll keep swinging his sword, whether the truth comes out or not. I'm still dying to know if he's unlocked his master powers yet. Meanwhile, Luke shows up, looking like he's plotting something shady. Elsewhere, a hooded figure questions if they really need to follow some kid, but the leader says he's a master swordsman's disciple. The hooded guy scoffs, calling him just a boy who only knows basic imperial swordsmanship. But the bearded man warns him this young man is dangerous because he's different. He reminds him that their organization was nearly destroyed by someone using that style before. The hooded guy just calls them weak. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see this. He's convinced the hero's legacy will crush what he calls inferior swordsmanship. Let's dive into a story where the main character is a total nightmare for anyone in his way. Asher stares at the note Luke gave him, luring him into a dark, abandoned alleyway. He knows this is a setup, but he walks in anyway. Stepping inside, he calmly asks why they haven't shown themselves yet. Suddenly, hooded assassins from the Motorola Guild surround him. Asher just mocks them, asking why such high-level killers are hunting someone as inferior as him. The lead assassin freezes. How could a mere brat possibly recognize their secret organization? They demand to know if the Swordmaster warned him, but Asher knows better. He remembers facing these monsters in his previous life, back when they first tried to claim this land. Back then he hunted them down and wiped them off the map. These guys are clueless. The assassin claims Asher just came here to die, but our boy just smirks and unsheathes his blade with lethal intent. He drops the first guy in seconds. They still talk too much, even when facing the absolute destruction of imperial swordsmanship. Shocked, the killer asks how he knows that style. Asher doesn't care. He's only focused on his ultimate goal. Meanwhile, at the palace, a king reflects on how long it's been since he last saw the legendary child of the Empire. It's hilarious seeing him call a bearded veteran like Hyben a child. Hyben snaps back, saying the king was much smarter 20 years ago. Now, he's just an old man weighed down by politics. He refuses to bow to royalty, because on the path of the sword, mortal authority carries no weight at all. Yeah, he's basically the greatest thing since sliced bread. The king gets serious, the rift is open and demons are pouring through. Hyben doesn't care about politics. He says the only priority is finding the hero. He needs the Empire's help, but the king says it's not that simple. They're dangerously short on manpower, and that's only the start of their problems. Apparently, the hero wasn't the only one who vanished. Hyben is left stunned, demanding to know what the hell is actually happening. Now watch closely, this is the moment the mystery behind our main character's past life really starts to leak out. But he's curious. He demands to know how Asher knows so much about their secret history. Asher tells him to bring it. The killers charge in a blind rage, but our boy is ready. They swarm him from every angle, but he's like a ghost, dodging every single strike with total ease. Then, he strikes back with terrifying precision. The leader mocks him, calling his moves cheap tricks from a weak human. Little does he know, Asher is just testing out his new gauntlet, and loving it. He didn't even notice Asher using spatial magic to summon his weapon. The assassin scoffs, promising that Asher will fall to his superior blades. Asher recognizes the style immediately, the Motorola Guild signature move. It's a dark art that strikes from the shadows, invisible to the naked eye. Aiming for vitals, the killer realizes Asher is one step ahead. He screams at Asher to die, launching a massive offensive. Asher holds his ground, staying purely on the defensive as the storm of blades begins. It's weird Asher can't find a pattern in these wild strikes. The assassin feels confident now, relentlessly pushing his advantage to finish the job. Asher starts to struggle, and suddenly, he actually drops his sword on the ground. He compliments the killer's talent, and the guy falls for the bait. He brags about being one of the elite 13 seats of the Motorola Guild. Asher calls that title pathetic, and demands to know why they're after him. The killer just laughs, since when do assassins give explanations to their targets? But Asher plays along, saying since he's about to die, why not grant his one final wish? The idiot spills everything they're here because an oracle predicted Asher's death. It was a hit ordered from the top. After spilling the beans, he asks if Asher is satisfied. More than enough, our boy says, as he suddenly flips the switch and attacks. While our hero is wrecking these killers, check out this clown Luke. He's relaxing with a drink, totally convinced that Asher is already a dead man. He thinks the thorn in his side is finally gone. To him, the Motorola assassins are on a level Asher could never reach. Suddenly, a voice speaks from the shadows. Luke's heart stops as he realizes the impossible Asher is alive and standing right behind him. Asher is chilling in his room, acting totally calm. He just wants a little chat, but Luke is losing his mind. Asher mocks him, asking why he looks so surprised to see him alive and well in his own chambers. Luke realizes the truth: Asher must have slaughtered the entire guild. And that means he knows exactly who sent them to kill him. Asher slowly walks toward him. Luke screams about his noble status, but Asher doesn't give a damn about titles. He draws his sword, and the entire room goes cold. It's just a warning for now. Asher says he's ignored Luke's petty games before, but this time, he crossed a line. He tells him to stop disturbing his peace with these pathetic acts. Our boy is absolutely done playing. He sheathes his blade and heads for the door. This is the last time they talk. He hopes their paths never cross again, for Luke's sake. One more mistake, and there won't be another warning. Luke just stands there in terrified silence, looking like he's about to have a heart attack. Back at the guild, the news breaks. Trust me, you and I are about to witness the fallout of their total failure. Alright, you and I are diving into a story where defeat isn't the end. The bearded man anticipated this loss, crushed by imperial swordsmanship again, and now he is desperate to uncover the truth behind that mysterious boy. Suddenly, a shadow emerges with a mocking laugh. He mocks the idea of the boy being linked to the former guard captain, questioning everything they thought they knew about this kid's sudden power. He can't believe the infamous Motorola Guild actually failed, all because of a single child using imperial techniques. It sounds impossible, but for the guild, this embarrassment is very real. The old man admits his history with that swordsmanship is a nightmare, while the hooded figure blames their defeat on a simple lack of skill. They were completely outmatched. Now, pay attention here, because the threat is escalating. He plans to handle the brat personally using the god Marunia's power while a massive crowd gathers in the city. Word is spreading fast. An assassin threatened young Master Luke, but get this, the rumors say the hero who stopped the bandits was actually that supposedly useless idiot, Asher. The villagers are skeptical though. They can't believe a troublemaker like him became a swordmaster's disciple or changed his entire personality overnight. It just doesn't add up to them. Minutes later, the scene shifts to the Great Hall, where Karen warns that the entire village was almost wiped off the map during the chaos. Lev is absolutely livid. Luke caused a massive disaster, and he wants to know where the boy is hiding. The guard says he is sulking in his room, which Lev prefers. He needs to reflect on his failures while the village slowly returns to normal. Everything is stabilizing, and the immediate danger seems to have finally passed. Surprisingly, everyone's opinion of our protagonist is skyrocketing. Lev realizes he needs to show some real gratitude to Asher for stepping up when no one else could. Now, stay with me, because this is where the suspicion starts to boil. Karan is dying to know who Asher really is, questioning how anyone could change this fast. Lev confirms that Master Hibben checked, and Asher isn't a demon, but he is still a major threat. With that kind of power, he could level the entire Iraq territory alone. Even so, he chose to fight for them, and saved countless lives today. Now they have to figure out if Asher is a true ally or hiding a dark agenda. Luckily, a perfect chance to test his loyalty has just appeared, so they will watch him closely. Karen asks for details, but then we cut to our main character, currently lost in his own thoughts about the future. A flashback hits. Asher is interrogating the hooded man, demanding to know why his god wants him dead. He wants the absolute truth, right now. The man claims they are just following orders. An oracle told them to kill Asher once they confirmed he was in the village. They don't even know the reason. Asher realizes they were using Luke as a pawn to move in. The man begs for his life since he talked, but let's be real, our boy never actually promised him any mercy. Back in the present, Asher is left wondering what kind of twisted games these people are playing behind the scenes. The Motorola are a cult worshipping the god Munia. Their leaders, known as the Honored Seats, are granted insane levels of divine power from their deity. He defeated them in his past life, yet here they are again, expanding their reach. He wonders if this god actually knows he is reincarnated. Either way, he must head to the capital soon. Someone there holds the secret to his rebirth, but then, a knock at the door breaks his concentration. It is Reika, and she looks completely miserable. The girl is clearly upset as she drops a bombshell. She just received a proposal for an arranged marriage. It is a total shock. In a flashback, Reika tells her father she isn't ready for this. He says he understands her pain, but things aren't that simple for them. There is no other choice because of who is on the other side. He tells her she has to meet him first. He might actually be decent. Back in reality, she feels like she is being sold to a prestigious family. Asher asks if they are powerful, and she reveals it is the Count of Bellatoria. Our boy recognizes that name instantly. He can't believe they are still forcing arranged marriages like this in that territory. The lord there is Vibarka Bellatoria, a man who was actually one of the legendary heroes from Asher's previous life. They had a history together. Vibarka wasn't the strongest, but he was a virtuous man who truly loved his people. Asher asks if the lord himself proposed to her. Reika scoffs. It was his son Boros. The guy has over 50 wives already, and the thought of joining that mess gives her the absolute creeps. Asher thinks Vibarka must be quite old now, but he is confused. Why would his son be caught up in a cold arranged marriage like this? A memory surfaces of Vibarka introducing his brave son, Boros. He mentions that marriage proposals are already flooding in from all the noble families across the entire land, looking for connections. But Vibarka is adamant. He wants his son to marry for love, whether the girl is a high noble or just a commoner. Asher remembers him as a humble man, not a typical aristocrat. It is sad to think even a hero like him eventually succumbed to the harsh reality of nobility. Reika brings up the rumors. She asks if Asher really wiped out that entire assassin organization all by himself when they invaded their territory. She wants to be strong like him. Asher calls her talented, and says it's a shame she's leaving. Then, she stares at him with one last favor to ask. A bit later, Asher stands with his sword ready. He asks if she is truly serious about having one final duel. She needs this. Once she marries, she can never hold a sword again. She charges at him, demanding he doesn't hold back, and their final training session explodes into action. The fight is over quickly. As expected, Asher takes the win with ease. Suddenly, Reika's mother, Venetia, appears. She takes her daughter's hand, and Reika wonders why her mother looks even sadder than she does about all this. Venetia also had an arranged marriage, but she actually knew her husband before they were officially wed. Reika hasn't even met this man, but she knows forming ties with a family of heroes is huge for their future. It's a heavy burden to carry alone. Suddenly, the mother turns to Asher with a desperate favor. She begs him to watch over her daughter when she travels to that unfamiliar distant territory. So you and I are about to see our hero head straight into the lion's den. Asher accepts the request, eager to see just how much his old friend Vibarka has changed. Alright, stick with me, you and I are about to watch a hero's paradise turn into a nightmare. Reika isn't exactly thrilled and asks why her father even brought Karen along, but the guard claims it's just a direct command. A flashback reveals Lev warning him to keep a close eye on Asher, fearing the boy hid his motives to target Reika from the start. After all, Asher has no reason to risk his life for a territory that has always treated him with pure hatred. Reika was the only one who truly stayed by his side. If she leaves, he might finally show them his true hostility. Either way, they plan to watch his every move, though the guard suspects this is just a scheme to win her heart. Asher knows Levro still doubts him, while the guard is just waiting for an excuse to finish the main character for good. This guy clearly forgot his earlier beating. Reika just wants to know how much longer until they finally reach their destination. They've entered the territory, but Asher notes, Bellatoria has been completely isolated from the outside world for over 20 years. Reika is confused, while Asher finds it suspicious that they suddenly proposed an arranged marriage after all this time. The girl brushes it off as nothing serious, though she still wants to know why the Lord is called a hero. Karen explains that Valbar was seen as a saint who was born wealthy, but chose to walk away from a life of luxury. After traveling the world and seeing its cruelty, he decided to dedicate his life to protecting the sick and the weak. He was so virtuous that he actually tore down his own castle and sold every treasure to feed the hungry and help on the farms. The guy was amazing. Because of those selfless actions, the villagers admired him, and that is how he earned the title of a legendary hero. Reika admits it's not easy for a noble to live that way, but the guard brags that his influence made this land perfect. Supposedly, it is a crime-free paradise, with no bandits or murders, until a soldier arrives at the carriage saying that bandits have suddenly appeared. Now don't blink, because this is where the perfect fairy tale starts to rot. Reika calls out the lie about there being no bandits, so Asher steps down from the carriage to handle the situation himself. He readies his sword, suspecting those Motorola guys are involved. But in that same instant, he realizes the truth. These people don't look like bandits at all, they are all starving to death, making Asher wonder what's really going on. Karen threatens them in the name of Lord Levox, warning that there will be no mercy if they take another step forward. However, Asher stops him because these aren't bandits, they are just hungry farmers who have absolutely nothing left. To them, dying of hunger or by a sword is the same, so Asher hands over gold to buy what they need. Wasn't this city supposed to be a paradise? The farmers leave thankful, while Karen is shocked Asher gave away his own money. It makes no difference to Asher, but he notices they were fleeing from the direction of Bellatoria territory. Karen claims that's impossible, and while Reika asks what happened, the main character tells her that everything is already settled. The girl returns to the carriage, complaining about bandits, and how this world is becoming more and more dangerous every day. Meanwhile, our protagonist wonders what's happening in that kingdom as the group finally arrives at the heart of Bellatoria. You saw that too, right? This massive, towering castle definitely wasn't part of the saintly story. Reika asks if he hadn't destroyed his palace to live simply, but Karen is too speechless to even give her an answer. Suddenly, a man named Boros Bellatoria welcomes them, saying it is a great pleasure to finally meet Reika and her companions. The girl asks if he's the groom, and Boros admits he is, though he surprisingly confesses this wasn't what he wanted either. Later, Asher looks out from the carriage and realizes this place has changed far more than he ever expected. The village is ruined and the mood is terrible. Boros admits that things have become very grim here recently. There have been several murders lately, so he warns them all to avoid making any eye contact with the local villagers. During dinner, Reika realizes this place is just a false paradise and a nest for bandits. They are eating a banquet while the people outside starve, and Karen realizes this isn't the kingdom he once knew. At that moment, Boros appears to ask if they've finished, mentioning that his father is now ready to see Reika. He tells them that Bellatoria is different now, and they shouldn't keep his father waiting because he's become a total monster. A few minutes later, they enter the Lord's Hall where he introduces himself as Valbarka Bellator. He welcomes them from their territory, saying it must have been a very long and difficult journey to reach his land. Asher watches from afar, thinking that the man once known as a hero has changed far too much since their last meeting. The man stares at the girl and licks his lips, and Reika can already sense that something terrible is about to happen. He says her name is lovely, but you and I can see the darkness in his eyes. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a story where a saint turns into a monster. Reika is terrified, asking if she really has to sleep in the Lord's room. This entire situation feels wrong to her. She needs to know what Boros is actually planning with that strange look on his face. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the king's hall. He asks his son if he remembers the bedtime stories he told him as a child. He once said to marry for love, but since no suitable wife appeared, he planned to marry Boros to the daughter of the Iraq family. But seeing the girl changed everything. The king decided she was better suited for himself, leaving Boros stunned, as his father took things way too far. Now pay attention here, this is where everything changes. The Lord casually announces he is making Reika his concubine, while the scene shifts back to Karen reflecting. The guards are disgusted by this depravity. Asher remembers Valbarka as a humble man, and Bellatoria as a beautiful happy place for everyone. But now, Valbarka is completely consumed by arrogance and greed. As the Lord drowns in wine, the villagers are left starving and desperate. Asher wonders if this is truly the same kind man he once knew. Suddenly, a knock at the door reveals Boros. He says he has something important to share with the group. Karen is absolutely furious. He demands to know if Lord Varko is really planning to marry Miss Reika, and Boros confirms the nightmare. The original marriage is cancelled, because the father is taking his son's place. Karen simply cannot accept such a disgusting betrayal. He storms out immediately to rescue Reika. He refuses to see her used as a tool, but Boros steps in to stop the chaos. As a loyal knight, Boros understands. He knows nobody actually wanted this political marriage to happen in the first place. With her incredible talent, he always believed Reika was meant to follow the path of the sword. Asher is shocked. He asks how Boros knows so much, and the prince reveals his secret information network spanning the territory of Ak. His father isolated the region to hide the truth, but Boros learned that the Lord of Ak never sold his daughter for profit. She is the descendant of a legendary hero, making the offer impossible to refuse, even if that hero is long gone. The king ordered Reika to stay in his private quarters, but Boros secretly moved her to the annex to keep her safe. He even opened the back door. He tells them to take the girl and escape the territory at the crack of dawn. Boros promises to handle his father. Still processing the chaos, Asher asks what really happened to the man he once respected. Boros reveals the dark truth: his father completely changed 20 years ago. He started exploiting the people, stealing resources to build a palace while the villagers literally starved to death. While the Lord indulged in pleasure, the territory rotted. Asher mentions the man was once called a saint, and Boros just laughs. He mentions how his father always told him to marry someone he truly loved. 5 years ago, Boros did exactly that. He brought a woman home to introduce her to his father. She was a kind commoner, but the next day she was dead. His own father killed her out of pure noble lust. The memory fuels Boros with pure rage. Asher hears enough and pledges his absolute loyalty to the prince. Boros is confused, but when he looks up, our protagonist has already vanished into the night. Back at the castle, the lord continues his heavy drinking while thinking about visiting Reika's room. But then, out of nowhere, our boy Asher suddenly appears before him. Asher points out that the real Valbarka hated alcohol and would never touch expensive wine, even when it was offered. The lord demands to know who he is. Asher simply tells him to recite the sacred oath of Belatoria right now. The man stumbles, proving he is a fake. Without a word, Asher draws his blade and lunges at the imposter. Blood sprays across the room as the scene shifts to the carriage outside. Reika is confused, but the guard insists they flee. Something terrible is coming, and that greedy lord must be avoided. Reika is horrified to learn the lord's true intentions. Suddenly, word reaches them that the castle is under a massive attack. Nobody knows what is happening as the scene shifts back inside the castle. You saw that too, right? Everyone watches in horror as our hero stands over the dying lord. I know what you are thinking, did he just become a murderer? Boros screams for his father, but Asher reveals the truth. This thing is not his father at all. It is a creature that steals human forms, a demon. Boros asks if he means it is a doppelganger. Asher scoffs, telling him he is not stupid. He knows the difference between a man and a monster perfectly. If it was a doppelganger, he would have lost his memory and failed to recognize his own son. He probably would have just attacked him right away. But his memory was perfect, recalling every single detail of their past. The only thing that truly changed over the years was his personality. Demon or not, Boros loved his father. He hoped for a change, but now that hope is dead and gone. Boros demands to know what right Asher had to do this. As he orders the attack, you and I are left wondering, was this justice? Let's find out next time. Alright, you and I are about to see a monster finally lose his mask, as Valar reveals he is actually a demon. He calls them all idiots and fully transforms into a terrifying creature. While everyone is paralyzed with fear, poor Boros is just trying to process the reality that he is looking at a literal doppelganger. The scene shifts to a guard sprinting through the castle halls, terrified of what the protagonist has just unleashed. Soldiers go flying as the demon charges at Boros. As casually as can be, he tells him it was very fun killing his beloved father along with his wife. Karen jumps into the fray to protect the boy, swinging his sword with everything he has got. But then, he realizes it just isn't enough. As the attacks keep coming, the monster mocks him, saying he is surprisingly skilled for a human. But the games are over. He slams the two men into the wall like they are nothing. Then, the demon turns to our protagonist, asking how a brat like him managed to uncover his true identity. The main character explains it was the Belatory oath. Valbarka kept it in his heart and never stopped talking about it. He had absolute faith in his people. Plus, there was a specific phrase that defined his essence, something no one could miss if they truly knew him. The demon is stunned, admitting he had no idea something like that even existed. He studied every detail to play his role perfectly. For 20 years he lived among them, and not a single soul ever suspected him. Now, watch this here, is where our main character drops the most epic flex yet. He stares the demon down, and calmly reveals that he is actually a master swordsman, the same one who hunted his clan. He mentions how his entire clan was once wiped completely from the map, and ironically, it was a human master swordsman who finished the job. The demon thought they were all dead, but it seems he missed one. He finally realizes who he is fighting, but it is too late, the bastard is finished. Elsewhere, Boros is flat on the ground, as Asher checks if he is still with us. The boy looks up, still in shock over the doppelganger. Asher helps him up, admitting that even he was caught off guard by how fast things escalated. It turns out the creature wanted old revenge. Boros looks at him, wondering how the protagonist could possibly know all these secrets. Suddenly, Reika and a squad of soldiers arrive to back them up. A day passes, and the main character stands before a gravestone for the real Valeras. Boros joins him, explaining they finally built a proper tomb for his father. They recovered his body and established a memorial in his honor, even if it was late. Asher offers his condolences, but the boy says it is okay. His heart is shattered, especially knowing he was tricked by a demon for so long. But thanks to Asher, the territory is finally safe. When asked about the future of the kingdom, Boros replies that he will be the one in charge from here on out. He has to rebuild the homes the demons destroyed, but he worries he will never be as great a leader as his father was. Asher remembers Valbarka saying a lord is nothing without his people, that the entire place only exists because of the citizens living there. True nobility isn't about commanding, it is about supporting them. To be honest, he wasn't in command but merely supported them. And those are the words he told himself every single day. Let's pause for a second. This oath hits different once you realize it's the core of his character and the reason he's a legend. Boros mentions Asher used that oath to find the demon's weakness. but that is a secret only shared between the closest of family members. He demands to know how Asher is so well informed about demons and their secrets. Our protagonist realizes his existence is becoming suspicious, and a few minutes later, we're back at the castle. Karen explains that doppelgangers steal human bodies to mimic them perfectly. This means Lord Valbarka was being used as a puppet this whole time. It was all a demon's plot. Reika tells him not to worry because the marriage has been officially cancelled. Since the demons forced the arrangement, it has been annulled. She also plans to leave this place as soon as she can. Asher makes up a quick excuse, claiming he is actually an apprentice to the master swordsman. It actually makes sense. Since the master was his father's close friend, Boros decides he can finally trust him. At that very moment, Boros kneels, saying he is a great man who saved the entire kingdom. It is a shocking sight, a noble bowing to a commoner. The boy offers to fulfill any request Asher has, anything at all, for the glory and name of Bellatoria. Asher smiles, thinking that the boy inherited his father's humility, and will surely grow into an incredible lord one day. Later, we see Levox in his castle. He cannot believe the lord was a doppelganger, realizing that Hyben's warnings were right all along. The global crisis is real. First the gang, then the demons. His words came true, and to be honest, he is terrified of what is coming next. They cannot drop their guard. Even so, Asher saved them again, and is slowly becoming a hero, which means it is about time to change your opinion of him. Wow, finally, huh? He probably does not need to be so paranoid anymore. Meanwhile, our boy was listening through the door, wondering if Levox will finally trust him. Honestly, he hopes the suspicion is gone since he is not interested in staying here anyway. The main character is ready to leave. After all, he has a lot of work ahead. Suddenly, he senses a presence and tells them to show themselves now. Unbelievably, a man appears who heard the whole story, and calls the protagonist a master swordsman. There is an intelligence organization called Topic. When the demons attacked, Lord Boros sent this group out to keep a line of communication open with the world. So what do you and I think Asher has planned? He asks for permission to hire them, and Boros agrees since he no longer needs their services. Alright, stick with me, because you are about to see how one man's hidden past changes the fate of a world. We cut to the present where this long-haired guy reveals himself as Kairos, the head of Intel. Our hero introduces himself as the new boss, and Kairos thinks he looks strangely familiar. But then he admits he is impressed. Honestly, the way Asher took down that doppelganger with a single terrifying strike, that was something else entirely. Asher claims he didn't even feel him watching. Kairos just smiles as the top spy in the land. Staying hidden is literally his whole job. What they didn't know yet was that the doppelganger definitely recognized Asher from somewhere. Anyway, Kairos wonders why someone like Asher needs an intelligence network. Is he just looking for some random nobody? Not even close. Asher wants the heroes. See, 50 years ago, the legendary heroes either vanished or became completely corrupt, like Ryben and Vlarka, who haven't been seen in 2 decades. Vlarka's body was actually stolen by a doppelganger while the other was being hunted by demons, and now that the demons are back, the world is in absolute danger. No one knows where the real heroes are anymore, especially the legendary one who originally banished the Demon King. Asher tells them to track down a man named Valorant. Hearing that name, Kairos is stunned. He never expected a case this big. Asher just smirks and asks if this task is too heavy for a tiny organization like his. Now pay attention to this. Kairos can't let that insult slide. He claims there isn't a single secret in this world they can't uncover. With the deal signed, he gets straight to work, but inside he is actually panicking. His pride made him say yes, but he has zero clues where to even start. He figures the capital is his best bet. He glances back at our main character, thinking he's one arrogant, interesting guy. Meanwhile, rumors are flying in the streets. Bellatoria has finally opened its borders to the rest of the world. It is a huge win for merchants, opening up massive new territories for trade and profit. People are asking why the gates were shut for so long. Some think it was because of demons, but the elders just laugh it off. Demons? That is just a fairy tale. They died 50 years ago. There is no way those monsters would just show up for no reason after all the death they caused. One old man remembers it differently. He was almost killed while running away with his mother as a child. Back then, he saw them with his own eyes, the heroes who stood against the darkness. He only saw them once, but their faces are burned into his memory forever. He tells the youth to appreciate the peace they have, because without those heroes, they would have nothing. But then chaos. A pack of goblins suddenly swarms the carriage from the shadows. Nobody saw it coming until it was way too late. Back with Asher, he feels it in his gut. The ancient threats to humanity are finally crawling back into the light. He finds Reika training, and warns her that the atmosphere is getting heavy. The shadow of the demons is starting to affect everyone. Reika admits she has only ever read about those monsters in old history books. And here is the terrifying part: nobody in this era knows how to fight them. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream rips through the air. A badly wounded villager stumbles out begging for help. He claims monsters came out of the woods and tore his carriage apart. The scene shifts to the road, where the carriage is nothing but a pile of broken wood. Asher realizes these aren't bandits. Those footprints? Not human. Reika spots someone lying in the wreckage and rushes to help. It's the old merchant. He is barely hanging on. He gasps out that they were ambushed by green monsters goblins. Asher's suspicions are confirmed. These monsters are hostile, alien creatures that once threatened to wipe out every human on the planet. Just like the demons, they were supposed to be gone. So why are they returning now? The merchant explains he was just coming back from an estate when they swarmed from the forest. They didn't just attack, they stole everything he had. Reika asks what a goblin even is. The man describes them as small, green-skinned nightmares with pointed ears. Asher chimes in, explaining that they vanished from the face of the earth 50 years ago alongside the demons. The old man is shocked Asher knows this. Asher just says he read the history. 50 years ago, the heroes killed the demons and everything else that threatened them. The demon realm was sealed, the dragons were crushed, and the monsters were driven far away from human lands. However, one heroine, the Queen of the North Sea, actually kept monsters under control in her own territory. They were peaceful for decades, living in harmony. But now, that northern order is shattered, and the monsters are hunting humans again. With Ravinia missing, the north is falling into pure chaos. Reika thinks the old man should know their weakness since he saw them, but then he drops a truth bomb. He was too young back then to fight. Every adult who knew how to kill them is probably dead by now. A day passes, and the city is in a total panic. Reika sees the fear growing everywhere she goes. Rumors of demons are spreading like wildfire. Her father's advisors are useless, they have no records, no books, and no idea what they are facing. There is literally no one left alive who has ever faced a monster in real combat. But you and I know Asher's secret. He's the only one who knows these goblins are just the beginning of a much larger war. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a world where monsters are still a total mystery. Walking through these dark streets, Ra feels the heavy vibe, while our boy Asher prepares to quickly clear his path. Reika senses his plan. Moments later, Asher heads out, thinking it is finally time to find those goblins while she watches. Suddenly he bumps into Reika. She knew he would not stay put and asks if he is hunting them. She is coming along, but Asher warns her it is too dangerous and the Lord will be absolutely furious. Reika argues it would look bad if the village saw Asher fighting, so they take a secret passage to avoid the guards. She knows the way. Minutes later, the two of them are finally sneaking out of the castle walls. Reika asks if he knows their location. Asher says they will track the footprints from that recent carriage attack to find them. Our boy starts sprinting immediately. But what they did not know was that monsters were already watching their every move. Watch carefully, this is where things get wild. We are seeing a goblin that looks way different from the rest. They reach the spot and Reika struggles to keep up, but our hero finally spots the hidden fortress ahead. Goblins love damp spots like this. Suddenly, Asher notices something and pulls her down into a low, quiet crouch. Guards are posted outside. Asher tells her not to fear, they just need to take them out before they are seen. The kid lunges, dropping the first goblin instantly. Another jumps him, but our boy is not going down that easy. He stabs the monster, seeing it still breathing. He calls Reika over, telling her she must be the one to finish it. This is real combat practice. She needs to understand exactly what it feels like to take a life. With no choice left, she grabs her dagger to face the beast. She is clearly shaken, but does what is necessary. The scene shifts deep into the lair. Asher knows these guys are savage, even if they are terrible fighters. They are aggressive and lethal in groups. Reika says they are a threat to her land and must be punished. Asher notices she is not in shock after her first kill. Her spirit is definitely stronger than he expected. She draws her sword, ready to clear the place, but Asher tells her to stay back and wait. It is almost time for their deep sleep cycle. They will head into their huts and stay down all through the night. He plans to move through their blind spots. Reika is impressed, wondering if he has faced these monsters before. Asher finds a lone guard and strikes from the shadows. With one quick motion, he immediately finishes the monster off. He enters the hut to find them all sleeping. Trust me, you and I know what comes next. It feels cruel, but Asher knows these things are a danger to humanity. One hut down, two more left. Looking to the side, he notices a hut that is totally different. It looks human-made, and he wonders if it belongs to the leader. These barbarians should not have the technology or intelligence to build a house like that. They are just low-level creatures driven by instinct. Either way, he decides he has to take this place out first. In the best case, it is just an abandoned house. But then, a noise catches his ear, and a massive trap comes flying. Asher is stunned, wondering how simple goblins could ever set up a trap like this. On the other side, Reika is still waiting and wishing she followed him. Suddenly, a group of goblins appears before her. She is nearly in shock, trying to stay calm. She tells herself she can take these few on her own. She draws her blade. But then a voice tells the goblins to stop because she is only human. This goblin is massive and looks almost human. Reika is frozen, wondering how a monster can actually speak to her. The creature watches her closely. He tells her to attack, while she asks if he is even a goblin. He confirms he is their leader and a fellow warrior training in the ways of martial arts. Reika realizes this is not a normal monster. He has the body and the high intelligence of a man. The creature laughs, asking why race matters in combat. It is time to stop this pointless talking and fight. He draws his spear and challenges her. Confident, Reika charges forward, shouting that he is no match for her. Back in the den, our main character is bleeding. He stopped the trap, but he totally let his guard down. A horde of goblins surrounds him. Instead of running, he tells them all to come at him at once. He activates his gloves, summoning a massive spear. He needs to break through this crowd right now. Our boy really knows his way around a spear, using it masterfully. Even so, he is struggling because the monsters keep coming. Reika's battle is just getting started. And trust me, you and I are about to see her limits. Alright, you and I are about to see if a monster can really judge a human warrior. Reika strikes hard, but he blocks her with ease. The brute leaps back, claiming her strength is her downfall, making her entire fighting style sloppy and unstable. In the heat of battle, she wonders if this monster is as strong as our hero. No, that's impossible. There's no way a goblin knows swordsmanship, but she's fighting for real now. She activates the Ravinia sword technique. Look at that. Absolute cheat mode is now engaged. The leader just watches, calling her a total fraud. Neither she nor I understood a word of that goblin's speech. Suddenly, the monster's spear shatters her sword like glass. He tells them to get this over with already and once again charges at the girl, throwing her far away. A little later, we see that Asher has already finished off every last goblin. He can't believe these monsters are this dangerous. Goblins coat their blades in poison, and a tiny dose can kill hundreds of people easily. Since he was slashed by a poisoned blade, he thinks he's done for and collapses. Back at the other battle, Reika is defeated. Her armor saved her life, but now she's stuck on the ground and thinks she can't move a single muscle. The monster tells her to die with honor like a warrior. He prepares the final blow while she wonders if this is how she finally dies. She wasn't prepared for this at all. But watch closely, something slams into that spear at the last second. Somehow, our hero is still alive, and says that was a close call. The goblin stares at our boy, shocked that he survived, and admits he is very brave. Asher is shocked the goblin can talk. He noticed their habits early on and was already familiar with the trick of poisoning their weapons. So, he coated his own gear with an antidote just in case. Seriously? You couldn't have mentioned that a bit sooner? Preparation is vital when facing goblins. The leader is actually surprised the boy knows their tactics, admitting he's a pretty smart human. Asher leans Reika against a tree and tells her he'll handle the rest. He faces the leader, who reveals his name is Tarkin, a goblin who dreams of being a martial arts master. It's crazy, a goblin with a human's mindset. The monster blames him for interfering in a fair duel and asks if he's ready to face the heavy consequences. The kid is confident and tells the beast to bring it on. Without wasting any time, the leader of the goblins does exactly that. He strikes at our hero, but Asher blocks it. The monster unleashes a flurry of attacks that are way too skilled for a normal goblin. His movements are refined from countless hours of grueling training and practice. It's been a while since Asher fought someone this talented. He finds an opening and sends the goblin flying back. Tarkin calls it the perfect swordsmanship he always wanted. Asher is powerful, and the goblin is thrilled to finally face some decent humans. Now they're both getting serious and charge at each other for the real fight. Reika watches the battle from afar. The goblin's style lacks elegance or skill, but his spear movements are somehow flawlessly precise, looking practically perfect to her eyes. You saw that too, right? This monster is starting to act exactly like our hero. Reika faints while the goblin asks if Asher's tired. Asher says he has no time to waste on talk, but the goblin is determined not to let him leave. But our boy knows the truth. Suddenly, the forest is ablaze, and the goblin realizes his village is burning to the ground. Asher's goal was total extermination by any means. Having no choice, the goblin decides to flee the battlefield immediately. He can't let his people burn to death. They'll finish this duel another day, and they'll likely meet again soon. All the monsters flee while Asher approaches Reika, thinking she fought like a champion. After all, she faced a superhuman alone. They must return to the capital and warn everyone that the goblins are launching an attack on the region. At the castle, the main character calls for the guard, saying he has something very important to show them. He drops a heavy sack on the floor. Everyone is frozen in shock when they see a dead goblin right in front of them. These creatures are planning a massive invasion. They'll be here soon, so the territory needs to prepare for war right now. A full day passes. Reika finally opens her eyes and finds her mother and father waiting at her bedside. Her mother asks how she's feeling, but the girl tells her not to worry. Her father blames Asher, but she insists it's not his fault. She's the one who chose to follow him, even after he warned her that the journey would be incredibly dangerous. Thanks to that fight, she gained experience and grew mentally stronger. He saved her while fighting for the entire territory. Her father finally calms down, realizing that Reika is right about him. Asher is truly fighting for every soul in this land. While everyone else was paralyzed by fear, Asher went out and brought back proof. He's acting like a real hero. And for some reason, the soldiers are now training right in front of that dead monster. Asher watches from above, while the Lord explains that he hung the body there to help the soldiers overcome their fear. So tell me, are they ready for the coming war? Alright, stick with me. You and I are about to watch our main character finally earn the trust of the Lord of Eric. Asher can barely believe he is being honored like this. Besides that, the Lord wants to talk about his daughter. But then, he mentions that Reika went straight to the training grounds the moment she woke up. She could live in luxury, yet she chooses the path of sweat and steel. The two find her training, and her father asks if she is holding up. She says she is doing just fine, but Levox sighs that she is as stubborn as her brother. Reika hates being compared to a loser like Luke. To her, he is just an idiot hiding in his room. She knows she has to become strong enough for the both of them. Asher listens in silence, wondering if Luke is still traumatized. They need to snap him back to reality. But first, Reika asks if Asher is okay. He tells her it is just a scratch from some goblin poison. Ra isn't worried since Asher was already prepared with the right medicine for the job. Asher explains that goblins always coat their blades in lethal filth. If you aren't ready for that, you are as good as dead. With the right armor and potions, the minions are easy. But the real problem? A goblin leader with the strength and skills of a master human warrior. Now pay attention. Deep in a cave, the real nightmare is waking up. The leader is still alive and he is smarter than any monster has a right to be. He knows his race is weak, and that is why he craves power. He broke past the limits of his kind, gaining human-level intelligence. Now, his only goal is to lead his race to absolute victory. But a voice is screaming in his head, demanding he slaughter every human. To him, this new intelligence feels like a heavy, painful curse. He knows he is just a puppet following orders. But hey, at least he gained the power to finally fight back. This world is full of weak frauds, but he finally found a human worth killing. The goblin stands tall and orders his entire horde to gather. His speech is simple: wipe out the humans. Seconds later, a sea of monsters is crashing against the fortress walls like a wave. The alarms scream as the monsters arrive. Karen orders the men to draw their steel. This is their home, and they won't let it fall. Goblins swarm the battlements, but the soldiers are ready for blood. This clash is brutal, and it definitely won't be ending anytime soon. Even Lord Levox is on the front lines, sword raised, commanding his men to protect the territory of Iraq. Meanwhile, Luke is still rotting in his room. Asher bursts in, telling the kid to pull it together. While he is moping, every single person in the castle is fighting for their lives. Luke is in total shock, crying that he is useless. He asks how a weakling like him could ever help in a real war. He says he isn't a prodigy like Reika or Asher. He's just a failure who will only be a lord on a piece of paper. Asher realizes the kid's self-esteem is completely buried. If he doesn't find a spark of courage now, he will never come back from this. Asher tosses him a sword and tells him to catch. Is he really going to watch his people die while he sits in the dark? He demands to know how a coward can lead. He is the future lord, and it is time to start acting like one. You feel that too, right? That moment the fire finally lights up in his eyes as he grabs the hilt and heads out while the battle continues. Back at the walls, goblins ambush Karen, but Reika arrives just in time to save him. The guard says they actually have the advantage. The goblins have the numbers, but they have zero coordination. The soldiers of Iraqi territory are managing to hold the line and defend themselves. It looks like a victory is coming, but Reika knows better. They still have a very long road ahead. Speak of the devil, the goblin leader appears. He knew his mindless brothers couldn't take a fortress on their own without his help. They did their part as distractions. Now, it is his turn to step onto the battlefield and finish the job. The soldiers think the worst is over, but Karen tells them to stay sharp. There is a chill in the air that wasn't there before. Suddenly, the goblin leader strikes from the shadows, cutting down soldiers before they can even blink. Reika's heart drops as she realizes he's the leader. Confusion turns to terror as Karen orders a charge. Reika screams for them to stop, knowing this thing is on a whole different level. It is too late. The soldiers rush in, but the goblin just scoffs. To him, these men are nothing but pathetic frauds not worth his time. In a single bloody heartbeat, he wipes out a dozen men. Karen can only watch in horror as his elite guards fall. The monster walks forward calmly, recognizing Reika from the forest. He mocks the man by her side, calling him a leader of weaklings. He has no interest in killing trash. He demands they hand over the human he actually respects right this second. He is looking for Asher, the only man he's met who truly knows how to wield a sword. He wants his rematch immediately. Karen isn't backing down. He tells the beast he'll have to go through him first. Reika warns him, but Karen thinks he can handle it. He believes no measly goblin can ever match human swordsmanship. The monster just smiles and tells the guard to give it his best shot. Steel clashes with bone-shattering force. Karen grinds his teeth, swearing he is going to take this monster's head as a trophy. Reika watches, knowing Karen is a high-level knight, recognized by the Empire. But the goblin leader is just playing with him like a child. The monster admits Karen has the spirit of a warrior, but he is still too weak. Before the guard can react, he is thrown back. And that is where we leave it, trust me. You're going to want to see what happens next when this monster finishes the job. Stick with me, we're about to see if this lunatic can actually hold his ground against Reika. Suddenly, our main character Asher steps onto the scene, and the goblin leader reveals he has been waiting for this exact moment. Asher doesn't back down, he has a score to settle, and he isn't finished with this monster yet. Asher draws his blade, challenging the beast to show its true power. But the creature just laughs it off, claiming that no human swordsmanship could ever hope to match his own barbaric strength. To the monster, only one human is worthy of standing before him, Asher. When their blades finally collide, the goblin is stunned, realizing this is the legendary skill he has been searching for his whole life. It is a duel of pure, raw talent, while Reika rushes over to support Karen. Suddenly, young Luke appears. The guards tell him it is too dangerous and he needs to hide inside the castle walls, but the boy refuses. As the heir to this land, he won't just stand by and watch. He might not be a fighter, but he chooses to stand with his people. He asks where Asher went, and Reika points toward the brutal showdown against the goblin commander. The goblin admits that fighting someone this serious, without any cheap tricks, is actually thrilling. Asher catches the opening and asks what he means by deception. The monster's answer is simple: he believes that all human swordsmanship is nothing more than a lie. He claims humans worship heroes with fake power, mocking their legendary skills. This hits Asher hard. He wonders if the godlike strength of famous heroes is actually a total fraud. The creature boasts that he is special because he alone achieved the purest form of the blade. He declares Asher is the only one worthy of his spear before charging. Meanwhile, our main character is still processing these strange words, lost in thought. The goblin thinks hero myths are fake while imperial styles are real. Asher just smirks, knowing that logic is completely flawed. Asher blocks the spear and admits the monster is smart, but he warns him not to judge human skill based on impossible expectations. Heroes saved their world with that strength, and no normal human could ever dream of surpassing them. Asher confesses he isn't a true master yet. In his past life he died the very second he reached the level he had chased forever. He is just an old soul wielding imperial techniques. He tells the beast that while his skill might seem advanced to a monster, the creature has no idea how deep and how powerful human potential actually goes. In a flash, Asher lands a devastating strike, leaving the goblin bleeding out. Our main character stands there, totally cold and calm. He casually calls the goblin weak as it collapses. From the distance, the soldiers can only watch in absolute silence and awe. But the beast is still clinging to life. As it struggles to rise, Asher looks down and tells him he would be dead if that cut was an inch deeper. Asher decides to spare him for now, choosing to let the law judge his crimes. Realizing he is beaten, the monster admits defeat and tells Asher he has won the right to decide his fate. Asher has one question: why did they invade? The creature looks him in the eye and confesses that he was simply following orders. The demons pulled the strings, freeing the goblins specifically to launch a full-scale invasion against humanity. This feels just like the last Great War. Asher realizes the Demon King must be back from the dead, controlling monsters from the shadows to tear the entire world apart again. The goblin confirms the truth: he is nothing more than a puppet dancing on a higher being's strings. He was just a normal goblin once, but his high intelligence allowed him to master the spear. He spent years hunting and fighting other races just to test his skills against the best. But no matter how skilled he became, goblins are still stuck at the very bottom of the food chain. Now, watch closely, because he couldn't overcome his limits until a high-ranking demon appeared to change his fate forever. This is where it gets dark. This demon gifted him a powerful body and sharp mind, but the price was a bloody invasion. Now that he has lost to Asher, he has no way to return to his masters. Instead of death, he is heading to a human prison. Asher orders the escort, and just like that, the monster commander is officially taken into custody. The soldiers celebrate their victory, shouting about human superiority. Reika notices how calm the goblin is, but Asher knows the beast has simply accepted his fate. For now, they are safe. But the Demon King is rising, and this is just the calm before a much bigger storm. A day passes, and the city begins to heal. Leo approaches Asher and thanks him deeply for saving the entire mansion from being wiped out. Asher stays humble, but Leo is grateful for more than just the fighting. It turns out Luke's attitude has completely shifted, which is the best news they've had all week. You and I saw that coming, right? Luke is actually helping rebuild the walls while Karen watches the prisoner. But something still feels off. Asher plans to send the goblin to the Empire for questioning, just as a messenger arrives with a high-priority letter. Between the Mimic and this goblin raid, the Empire is finally on high alert. They are sending an elite envoy to investigate immediately. As luxury carriages roll through the gates, the villagers whisper about who could be inside. But as the curtains flutter, it is clear the passenger isn't human at all. Back at training, Reika asks if she should learn the Imperial style. Asher is surprised she hasn't started yet, wondering why she has been holding back. She admits that watching him fight convinced her that imperial swordsmanship is actually the most incredible skill she has ever seen. Asher warns her she might be disappointed. He remembers so many eager kids just like her from his previous life. Countless students wanted to learn from him, but he only taught the basics. Most quit in frustration, except for one very special boy who stayed until the end. He wonders where that boy is now. Reika interrupts his thoughts, mentioning the Imperial envoy's arrival, but Asher already knew the news from the Lord. When she mentions the lead captain is a dark elf, Asher's heart nearly stops. This is the last person he expected to see. The scene shifts to the castle where the Imperial group is welcomed. You and I just met the new captain of the guard, Aina Vasilis, and trust me, everything is about to change. Alright, you and I are jumping into a story of fire and betrayal. Hibben's voice echoes in the flames saying that in the end, they burned away their own lives. The Dark Elves have been completely wiped out. Asher coldly notes that they brought this destruction on themselves. A global disaster was barely avoided. His job here is finally done. Hibban tells him to go, but to come back safely if they ever happen to need anything else. A little later, our main character walks through the silent forest alone, but then, a sudden noise breaks the silence. He wonders what it is. It sounds just like a child crying. Deep in the thicket, he finds a young dark elf, who must be the elder's own daughter. Against all odds, the mother managed to save her. Asher wonders what sins led her to deserve such a tragedy, but Asher unexpectedly reaches out his hand. He offers her a name and a new path to follow. And man, that little dark elf girl, she's the very same one the protagonist saved. Back in the present, she meets up with Asher's group. Leok introduces him as an excellent swordsman who played a huge part in crushing the goblin hordes. Arena looks the boy over and admits it is a pleasure to finally meet him. The two greet each other, and later, Levox says Asher will explain everything. As they sit together, Asher realizes this whole situation feels incredibly strange. Now, here's where it gets wild. Pay attention. He's staring right at his own adopted daughter from his former past life. Long ago, the elder elf's hatred for humanity led her to use forbidden magic to summon monsters. She wanted to watch the entire world burn to the ground. But she couldn't control that wild power. Because of her arrogance, the Dark Elves were completely annihilated. Heroes barely stopped the Elder. Afterward, our boy burned the corrupted forest to the ground to ensure that the creature's energy could never spread again. He ended up adopting the orphan, Arena. She followed him silently, but she never really showed him any more affection than was necessary during their time together. To be honest, he didn't expect her love. Humans burned her home and killed her family. She should have hated him. Yet she followed his footsteps to become a guard captain. She is here now because Lord Hibben sent her as his proxy, since he could not make it here personally. They get straight to business, and the news is blunt. The Empire does not trust this mysterious boy. The secrets she carries are dangerous. Even as Hibban's student, it's hard to speak freely, but Asher thinks that all of this is perfectly understandable. After all, a child who knows how to defeat demons suddenly appears out of nowhere. To the Empire, that is extremely suspicious. Arena explains that Hibben trusts him because of his blade. Now, she needs him to show her that skill in person, especially since it is an official request. Asher stays silent. He knows she should recognize his swordsmanship already. After all, she spent her whole life watching him. But he's going to do what she asked. As he grips his sword, a flashback shows Hibban saying this child reminds him of her father. Arena isn't convinced, but Hibban insists. The swordsmanship and even the way he speaks are both almost exactly the same. She needs to see it for herself. She thinks it's impossible for anyone to actually resemble the father figure she lost so long ago. So yeah, she really does see him that way. Asher says he is going to begin the demonstration and starts his training. Every single one of his strikes has a purpose. The girl watches every single movement with absolute focus. You and I both know the truth about his real identity, but she is completely captivated by seeing her father's legendary skill reflected in this mysterious child. Later, Leok tells his daughter Reika she got into the academy. The letter was delivered personally by the captain of the Imperial Guard. With a proper education, she can truly develop her talents. They will be heading to the capital soon, so they need to prepare. Reika walks down the hallway with a huge smile. Getting into the prestigious academy feels like a dream she never thought would come true. It is the most prestigious school in the Empire. It's the place that produced world-class master swordsmen, where the kingdom's greatest warriors all gather. She wishes the protagonist could come too. After all, he is definitely the greatest talent in the entire Empire. She wants to convince him to go to the academy together. He surely wants to see the broader world. Meanwhile, our boy just keeps training non-stop. The guy is disciplined. He is still thinking about his daughter, and a flashback appears from their meeting just a little earlier. He'd finished the demonstration and asked if her doubts were gone, but the poor girl just rushed off in a total hurry. Asher realizes he probably shocked her. After all, she just saw a random child use her dead father's legendary style perfectly. Suddenly, he senses someone nearby. He asks the girl just how long she has been standing there in the shadows. Flustered, she apologizes for interrupting, but Asher doesn't mind. He realizes she is still watching him just like she did in the past. She thanks him for the demonstration. His skill reminds her of someone very close to her, and she apologizes for not being able to explain properly. Asher's just glad it wasn't anything serious, and he asks if her check is finally complete. Her evaluation is finished. Now, she is finally ready to trust him and share the most confidential information regarding the Empire's current status. She speaks of the old wars when legendary heroes like the Great Mage stood tall to protect the world against the terrifying demon race. Now, those heroes are gone. Valbra has been swallowed by the demons, and the leaders of the land have vanished after destroying their own domains. Trust me, you and I need to watch carefully. The north is collapsing without Ravinia. Control has completely vanished, and an army of monsters is coming. Alright, you and I are dropping into a world where the mages and dragon slayers have gone completely silent. Total chaos is erupting, but Asher expected this disaster. He asks about Hiban, only to find out the man has already abandoned the Empire to investigate the mess. Hiban is on an official mission to track down the hero and watch the world burn. But before vanishing, he left a specific message for Arena to give Asher. Now everyone is wondering what Asher will do. Is he actually going to step up and save the world? Asher gets quiet, thinking they just want him to be the same fighter he was before. But he is going to do absolutely nothing. Honor is just a waste of his time now. He is not a hero. All he wants is to follow the way of the sword, and nothing else matters anymore. He will live by the blade and die by it. He never got to be a hero before, and he won't start now. He'll just cut down anyone who blocks his path. Arena is shocked but accepts his choice. Hiban warned her that Asher would never change, that he was the type of man who would spend his entire life obsessed with the sword. She says he reminds her of someone very close. Asher just watches her silently, knowing exactly who she is talking about because she was once his friend. Pay attention here, because this is where the mystery deepens. He tells her he is heading to the Gate of Swords to finally uncover the truth behind his reincarnation. If the man he is looking for is there, he might finally get some answers. Arena is confused why he is so desperate to go there. Right then, Reika runs up with big news. She just got her acceptance letter from the prestigious Imperial Academy, and she is beyond excited. She wants them to go together. Arena jumps on the idea, suggesting it sounds perfect, and asking Asher why he doesn't just travel with them to the Empire. Asher thinks it over and agrees. It might be good to spend a little more time together before the day he eventually has to say goodbye to Reika forever. Everything is set. Reika is officially an academy student, and a huge crowd gathers to celebrate her future and wish her the best of luck. The celebration is so big, it almost looks like a wedding. The whole group is there to see them off. Her family says their goodbyes, and Levok tells her not to worry about the land. Karan and Luke will handle everything. Honestly, it's hard to believe how fast Luke bounced back. He hopes she becomes the greatest swordswoman in the Empire. Meanwhile, Asher is stuck wondering how the hell the demon race came back to life. His mind is racing with questions that won't stop haunting him. He needs to move out and find the truth behind it all. He didn't want to get involved, but these mysteries are blocking his path. He has to handle this personally. As they prepare to leave, Levok warns them to transport the prisoner carefully. The goblin is being hauled away. Arena tells the monster he'll be spending the rest of his miserable life in an imperial prison once the investigation is finally over. The creature just takes it, acting stoic. He says since he lost, they can do whatever they want with him. He is a total loser. After all that chaos, the carriage finally pulls out. Every eye in the territory is glued to the goblin who caused so much destruction and pain. Everyone glares at him, and he knows prison won't be easy. But he's convinced he'll be free soon. You've gotta love the guy's insane optimism, right? Later on, Reika asks Arena how she actually became the captain of the Imperial Guard. It couldn't have been easy for a dark elf to thrive in a human world. You and I both know exactly who she is talking about. Arena says she took the job to follow the footsteps of someone she deeply respected. Reika asks who that person was. Arena explains it was the father figure who protected her and raised her since she was small. She was taught to hate humans. But after her race was wiped out, one man approached her. He was the only one who didn't show her any fear or hatred. That man was the previous captain of the guard. He took her in and raised her as if she were his own flesh and blood daughter. He was stern on the outside, but incredibly kind deep down. His discipline was everything to her, and it inspired her to become the warrior she is today. Sadly, he passed away, but his memory lives on in her heart. Hearing this, Asher casually asks if the man who resembled him was actually her father. She says yes, and Asher asks what she actually respected about him. Arena thinks for a moment and then says it was definitely his swordsmanship. Even though the world didn't call him a hero, he reached a god-tier level of skill through a lifetime of training, and she admired that more than anything. She wanted to mirror his path. By following his style, she fought her way to the top and reached the position she holds now. Asher realizes he was a complete idiot. He spent so much time worrying that she hated him, but the truth is, she looked up to him. Reika suggests that her father might have even reincarnated too, Suddenly, a man appears begging for help. He says bandits are raiding his nearby village and kidnapping everyone in sight. Asher doesn't waste a second. He jumps out of the carriage and tells them he's going to check the situation out with his own eyes. Reika follows to assess the danger, while Arena tells them to stay safe. But then, the goblin speaks up. These aren't humans. He can feel a familiar dark aura in the air. He is certain that these are actually demons. They need to be careful. The scene shifts to the village, and wow, the place has been absolutely leveled and left in ruins. From afar, Asher and Reika stare at the carnage. Reika is horrified, wondering who could do this. Then they spot humans loading people into a wagon like cattle. One man looks back, but Asher cuts him down instantly. As the others charge, Reika wonders if these guys are just normal bandits. Asher identifies them as human traffickers. They're a sick organization that sells people across continents. He dealt with their kind plenty of times in his past life. In some corners, this kind of horror is allowed behind closed doors. Under imperial law, this is punishable by death. So if he wipes them out right now? No problem at all. Stick with me for what happens next. Alright, you and I are jumping right into the heat of battle, where the laws of mercy no longer apply for anyone involved. These thugs are totally finished, and Asher shows absolutely zero mercy to any of them. The villagers are finally free, just as Arena arrives on the scene to check the aftermath. But then, Asher points out the harsh truth: these people have nothing left. We need to get them to the Empire, for safety. Arena agrees, and begins escorting the villagers. Everything seems settled until a tiny voice calls out to Asher, and he looks down to realize it was just a child. The little boy is full of gratitude. Asher realizes just how dark things were getting. They were even targeting children for kidnapping. This could have been a total nightmare, but Asher plays it cool. Then he spots something on the kid that makes him freeze. Later, the scene shifts. Asher brings up the boy, asking if a man named Lord Crocus is the Empire's master of the depths. The girl is stunned. How does he know that? Simple Asher heard the name from Lord Hibben back in the day. You see, that mark on the boy's forehead means everything. He is the chosen successor to the Master of the Depths. Now pay attention here, because this subterranean hero guards the massive rift to the demon realm, stopping waves of dark energy from rising up and threatening the life of everyone on the surface. His entire life is dedicated to one job: keeping that rift sealed tight, with a massive magical barrier. He is the one who secretly protects the entire world, forced to live in total isolation underground for his entire life. For security, the Empire never made his existence public. But make no mistake, Lord Crocus is a legendary hero, holding the line where the demon realm meets our world. Meanwhile, Goblin is eavesdropping from the shadows. He realizes the dark energy he felt earlier was actually radiating from that small child. The kid is destined to live surrounded by that demon energy forever. Honestly, for Goblin, it brings back some old memories. Inside the carriage, Arena asks the boy what his name is. He replies that his name is Garen, and he was just enjoying his final vacation before the official succession ceremony for the Master of the Depths. He stopped in that village just as those traffickers decided to snatch him up. Asher calls it luck, while Reika says it will be hard to live underground for the rest of his life. But the boy says it is fine because life out here was already harder. Before this, he was just a lonely orphan, begging for scraps in the alleys just to survive another cold night. Luckily, those alleys led to Lord Crocus's domain, a place filled with demon energy that normal people could never even enter. The old man took him in as a disciple, and years later, offered him the ultimate role, becoming the next Master of the Depths. With no home and total respect for his master, he agreed. Reika can only imagine how heavy that choice must have been. Once they reach the Empire, the boy will reunite with his master, and finally complete the official succession ceremony. Meanwhile, Asher is lost in thought. He remembers serving alongside the master back in their younger days in Eric's territory. He hasn't seen his friend since he went to the Empire for the ceremony years ago. He must have aged so much, and Asher wonders if he will ever see his old friend again. Finally, the group arrives at the other Empire, where soldiers are waiting to welcome Arena home. She immediately commands her men to prepare temporary housing for all the rescued villagers right away. Garen gives them a heartfelt thank you for everything before saying his final goodbyes to the group. Arena calls the two of them and says she will show them the way tomorrow, but for now she leads them to the lodgings where they will stay tonight. Later, Asher sits in his room, realizing this is the exact same dormitory he stayed in while working for the Empire. Absolutely nothing has changed here. He sits on the bed, wondering why that man still has not shown his face. Okay, I know what you're thinking, another jump scare? But Asher's senses are way too sharp to be caught off guard by Cyros suddenly appearing out of thin air to talk business. Cyros hands over a stolen paper. It is a copy of the Empire's most confidential documents, top secret stuff. It lists exactly when the heroes vanished, and where their territories are. Turns out Cyros is actually pretty useful after all. But the vibe in the Imperial Castle is getting dark. The master of the underworld has gone missing, and we both know that is a very bad sign. During breakfast, Reika mentions that Arena is nowhere to be found. They were supposed to head out together that morning. Suddenly, a high-ranking soldier named Kane shows up. He is actually the leader of the security squads who will be responsible for guiding them through the Empire today. Reika asks about Arena, but Kane says the captain had to rush off for urgent business. He will be their escort to the academy. Asher immediately puts the pieces together. He knows she probably went out to search for the missing Lord Crocus. A few minutes later, Reika is staring at the capital in awe. This place is incredibly fancy compared to what she is used to. Big cities really are a world apart. Asher knows the only reason this place stayed peaceful was because Lord Crocus was guarding it. With the official succession ceremony coming up, there is no way he would just disappear. Something is definitely going very wrong behind the scenes here. Reika sees the worry on his face, but he brushes it off. Kane just assumes the boy is feeling a little homesick. They will be at the academy soon, and Kane promises to make them comfortable. Asher tries to accept it, but everything feels off. After all, the Empire is where he spent most of his entire life. As they stand before the massive academy, you and I are left wondering what dangerous ghosts from Asher and Hibon's legendary past are waiting for them behind those massive imperial gates. The scene shifts inside the academy where the old woman admits she finally knows Reika's origin, realizing she hails from the exact same territory as Karen. The girl asks if she knows the guard, and she confirms it, since he is a top-tier swordsman produced by the academy's elite training. She's absolutely convinced no one in the entire empire could ever defeat him, but you and I know our main character already took him down without even breaking a sweat. Anyway, the academy refuses to accept students without real abilities, so they demand she participate in an entrance exam duel, which Reika accepts without wasting a single second. With everything settled and the challenge accepted, the old woman says she will guide them directly to the site of the duel. Suddenly, Asher calls out to Reika, explaining that he has a few things to take care of and needs to leave for a while, though he is certain she will pass. After settling things, Asher asks the guard to watch over the girl before leaving immediately, his mind focused on finding the legendary sword gate. A few minutes later, Reika stands at the test site facing the professor in charge of new students, who warns her that he will not be going easy on her. He tells her everyone is equal before the blade, and she only passes if she can block his attack and land one single valid hit. As the man raises his sword, the old woman standing beside him mentions he was once a highly respected member of the elite Imperial Knights. Kim watches the duel closely, knowing the academy entrance test is legendary for its difficulty. But stick with me, because you're about to see just how skilled Reika really is. As the protagonist's disciple, she does not disappoint, swinging her blade so fast she shatters the professor's sword into pieces within just a few seconds. Reika secures the victory, leaving the entire crowd in total shock that a mere student just completely dismantled a veteran professor during her entrance exam. The professor remains lying defeated on the ground while Hika just shrugs, thinking the guy was honestly way too weak to be a real challenge for her. Even the stunned supervisor has no choice but to officially grant the girl her passing grade after witnessing such an overwhelming display of skill. Meanwhile, our protagonist finally arrives at the Blessed Sword Gate, a famous location coveted by warriors from across the globe, where reaching the inner sanctum requires passing through 3 massive gates. Only those with elite levels of swordsmanship can open them, with each gate revealing another challenge hidden directly behind it. Countless swordsmen have tried to open them to test their limits, but so far, no one has reached the interior, with even the most elite warriors barely making it past the first gate. The space beyond the 3rd gate remains a mystery, as the scene changes to that sacred place where many have failed before. A group of warriors is currently struggling to open the massive gate, and it is clear that poor guy over there is not going to manage it. Right at that moment, Asher appears at the gate, and when a blonde guy asks if he's going to try opening it, Asher just casually says that's the plan. The guy warns him it won't be easy, pointing out the top student from Poe Academy, who has been trying for an hour without making any progress. Now, pay attention here. Watching him shut the gate, after casually remembering his past life, is something you and I are definitely going to love seeing for ourselves right now. He did the same with the 2nd and even opened the 3rd gate, a feat that not even legendary swordmasters have achieved in their entire lifetimes. Thus he reaches the unknown space beyond the gates, remembering back when he was just an ordinary captain of the Imperial Guard in his previous life. Because of that, he ends up meeting a very interesting individual, greeting a legendary sentient sword named Enser after such a long time. The sword actually talks back, surprised to see the captain, and Asher notes that 40 long years have already passed since they last spoke. This blade is the one he connected with in his past life, and it is essentially a magical being capable of reading the human soul. It can probably answer his questions, though the sword asks why his appearance changed so much since he suddenly became younger. The main character explains that while his soul remains the same, he was reincarnated into the body of someone named Asher, and he came looking for the truth. Accepting to help the boy, the sword asks him to stay still, so it can take a much closer look at the state of his soul. Suddenly, lights erupt as Enser senses a sinister evil energy interfering with his soul, warning that some powerful being is watching and trying to manipulate him now. In the middle of this crisis, Our boy assumes it might be the work of Marowina. He is the terrifying leader of the assassin guild known as Motorola, and easily the most evil being alive. The sword explains that gods can interfere with human souls, suggesting that a dark deity likely tried to hijack his soul before he was reborn. He explains that since he died before his master-level soul and aura could truly become one, his spirit is now essentially a rare and unprotected treasure for any evil force looking to claim his power. To someone like Munia, he has the soul of a legendary master but cannot use aura, making him an easy and highly desirable target for theft. Hearing that, Asher says that just because his body changed doesn't mean he will be easily defeated by those villains. Having satisfied his curiosity, he decides it's time to head out, which surprises the sword since he is leaving so quickly. Asher says he is unfortunately very busy, promising to visit again later, but the sword begs him to pull it out of the ground first. It is almost going crazy after being stuck there for decades, and Asher asks if it didn't say the exact same thing in the past. It had tried to be pulled out several times but always failed. Yet the sword insists things are different now that he has become a master. Asher notices the sword feels much lighter than before, and with a brilliant flash of light, he finally pulls the blade free from its decades-long rest. A massive light envelops the entire area before the scene returns to the dormitories, where Reika asks what Asher has been doing until now. He plays it cool despite being covered in dirt, and as Reika happily celebrates passing her exam, you and I know the real battle for his soul is only just beginning. Alright, you and I are about to see a high-level professor get folded by a single, devastating strike. Honestly, it was way too easy. Kane mentions that the county of Iraq is packed with talent, but for now, the girl just wants to sleep. Looking over at the guard, someone realizes the man has been standing there for ages, yet somehow, nobody noticed him. Asher explains it is because the guard is invisible to everyone else. The sword has literally transformed into a spirit. Later on, Asher asks the spirit if this is his first time seeing the human world, and the spirit remembers it clearly from before he was sealed. Even though the gate was destroyed, he is just happy they made it out safely. Because of all that chaos, Asher is covered in dirt, while the spirit celebrates finally being free from his prison. But wait, before he forgets, the spirit senses something nasty. Asher mentions that deep beneath the Empire, there is a portal to the demon world. The guardian of that portal vanished recently, making the barrier weak and allowing demonic energy to leak into the human world. This person is a secret hero protecting the Empire, and Asher is desperate to find out where they actually went. Trust me, it gets worse. The spirit senses black magic, a dark force capable of wiping out this entire world. Underground, Arena warns her team to stay alert as the energy intensifies. Suddenly, a guard is dropped, and everyone is left trying to understand what is happening. Then, the unthinkable happens. A demon crawls out of the portal, mockingly asking if they want a tour of hell. Back with Asher, the protagonist asks about that black magic, and the spirit confirms it is a power used only by demons. This evil force is being used to expand the portal, and someone is intentionally spreading this darkness to bring about total destruction. Asher realizes that if this is true, the entire underground has already been overrun and crawling with monsters. Just then, the two hear a voice. It is Garen saying he needs to see his master. Asher appears on the scene, and the child begs for help because his master has simply vanished into thin air. The boy is the successor to the Lord of the Abyss, so Asher asks the captain to let them through the entrance immediately. However, the young man warns that only the elite can survive this demonic energy, but the spirit says Asher has already surpassed that level. Everything should be fine. Moments later, we see that goblin from before, who asks if they finally came looking for him. Asher offers a deal. If he helps with this task, he will get the Empire to set him free, as long as he never hurts humans again. The goblin swears by his honor and loyalty. With a smile, Asher orders the goblin released. The guard is hesitant, but he knows he cannot say no to him. After all, Asher is the apprentice of the greatest swordsman in the Empire, making him the only one they can trust. Once Tarkin is free, he sniffs the air, noting that the underground entrance absolutely reeks of pure demonic power. As they head inside, Garam checks if Asher is okay. The pressure is heavy, but our hero says he is feeling fine. The goblin is impressed, noting that any normal human would have gone completely insane from this level of exposure by now. Suddenly, the monster spots something on the ground. It is the elf woman, Orion. Asher rushes over to see if she is alive. Luckily, she is not seriously hurt. Looking up in shock, the girl asks what on earth Asher is doing down here. When she sees the goblin, Asher explains that Tarkin knows this energy and is here to help them survive the descent together. As they move deeper, the goblin senses demons nearby. It is a familiar foul energy, just like the magic that once brainwashed him. Asher hears a noise in the shadows and does not waste a single second, immediately drawing his weapons for a fight. A chilling laugh echoes out, and a demon appears, taunting them and asking if they want to play another game. She boasts that she will kill everyone with a single blow before charging straight at our protagonist with lethal intent. The impact is loud enough to be heard from a distance. Garam worries for his master, and Arena decides to join him. Somewhere else, an old man tells Garen to hurry up so they can finally begin the succession ritual for the Abyss. Back in the fight, Asher blocks the attack, but then the demon suddenly vanishes into thin air. Now, here is where it gets wild. The demon is defeated in an instant, and Asher calls her an absolute idiot who is not even worth his time to fight. He demands to know who sent her, but the demon claims she just stumbled through the portal out of pure curiosity. Arena and Garen arrive, but the demon sees an opening and summons another massive monster right next to them. The goblin finds this annoying. Things take a turn when Asher is slammed against the wall. The demon laughs, thinking she has already won the battle and that monsters should obey her. She tells her slaves to just kill the humans so they can go destroy the rest of the world together. But get this, Tarkin is absolutely furious. He asks if she really thinks her weak power is enough to control him. In a blur of motion he lunges, throwing the demon aside and blasting her right back into the portal with an explosion. Arena rushes to Asher, but the spirit reveals the main character was just faking being knocked out to test the goblin. You and I just saw a master plan in action. Asher finally confirmed the goblin's loyalty, but trust me, there are much bigger threats waiting in the darkness. Alright, you and I are diving into a story where a hero becomes the ultimate villain. Arena reveals this fortress houses the portal. Meanwhile, Asher plans to track down the legendary Krokos now that they have cleared out the remaining demons in the area. Garen swings the heavy door open, coming face to face with the master he has been seeking. In a desperate state, Garen asks where his master disappeared to, but the old man calmly apologizes for the worry. Watching from the shadows, Asher realizes it has been far too long. Krokus recognizes the guard captain, and the girl expresses her relief that he is still alive and well. Here is the part you and I need to watch. The goblin senses something wrong, as Arena begs for help against the waves of demons pouring through the portal. Kneeling, she begs for permission to defend the realm, but unbelievably, the old man turns her down cold. He screams about his life as the master of the Abyss, asking why he must remain bound to this duty while rotting away inside this cursed underground prison for eternity. Things are getting dangerously intense now. A flashback shows a man thanking Asher before heading underground. He knows life there will be hard, but for the Empire's sake, someone must take on that burden. He says facing the demons that killed his parents gives him pride and a sense of true joy. Back in the present, Asher realizes just how far this once great man has truly fallen. The spirit explains that these creatures exist on the border of the demon realm. They are primordial beings that serve as the very source of a demon's power and physical form. This hero of the depths now absorbs demonic forms for black magic. He orders his monsters to attack, and one lunges straight for Arena. Tarkin steps in to protect her, shouting for the girl to snap out of it and draw her blade. That man is no longer a hero, he is a monster. The goblin tells Asher to leave the defense to him and the elf while the protagonist goes to rescue the child. The master and the boy vanish. Elsewhere, the old man announces that the succession ceremony is finally beginning. The boy asks why he is doing this, and the old man simply admits he is exhausted. He has been trapped in this hole too long. Being the ruler of the depths means being eternally bound to the darkness, and he truly did not want to pass this miserable life on. Garen argues that he chose to be the successor out of respect, but the old man just nods solemnly. The Empire calls him a hero but secretly despises him for spreading demonic energy. The truth is, they want nothing to do with him. It is a criminal life hidden by a heroic title. He asks how anyone could ever escape this hell. His answer? Turn the entire world into a prison. While Arena battles the demons, the goblin watches her from the sidelines. He is impressed by her skills, noting her style is strangely perfect. Meanwhile, Asher finds a mysterious black circle. Realizing it is a barrier, he asks if he can break it. The spirit confirms he is a swordmaster capable of defying demon realms. Asher agrees to try. Back with the master, he begins infusing Garam with his overwhelming dark power. The boy screams that he does not want this, but the old man refuses to stop. Suddenly, Asher shatters the barrier, declaring that this madness ends right now. The shocked old man asks who he is. I know what you are thinking. Can he actually take down a legend? Asher saves the boy, calling this supposed hero worse than any demon. Asher deflects every strike before leaping at the old man, thinking about how pathetic the master of the depths has become. The old man is stunned that his black magic failed, realizing Asher is no ordinary swordsman. Asher refuses to let the world become a demon nest. Furious, Krokus screams that no one can challenge a great hero. He claims his body has been fully restored by the absolute power of his black magic. Asher shuts him down, calling him a traitor who sold out humanity to the demons. The man tells him to shut up, launching black magic that supposedly destroys the mind and drives men insane. He claims that as a mere human, Asher cannot possibly withstand this wave of darkness. Surprisingly, the opposite happens. Asher counters the spell, completely nullifying the dark magic with ease. He explains that mental attacks like that won't ever work on a true swordmaster. Desperate, the old man tries crushing him with raw force. Asher takes a defensive stance as the sequence of attacks begins. Asher keeps defending until a massive explosion occurs, causing the protagonist to vanish from sight. Approaching Garen, the old man apologizes for showing his dark side, hoping the boy will eventually understand. In the past he lived with pure hatred for demons, choosing to become the agent of the depths to protect the world. He endured a long, lonely life underground just for the Empire's peace. But the Empire betrayed him, erasing his existence to keep the rift a secret from the public. They labeled him a dangerous, contaminated being despite the decades of prosperity he provided. Even after all his service, they treated him no better than the demons he fought. That was the breaking point. He decided there was no reason to keep guarding the rift for such people. So what do you and I make of this fallen hero? He plans to annihilate humanity so Garen can finally be free. But get this, is Asher really gone? Alright, you and I are about to see our hero return from the brink, shocking the old man who thought he was finally dead. Asher stares Crocus down with cold intensity, reminding him that he once promised to be a son his parents could be proud of, a man of true conviction. Crocus is stunned, but Asher pushes harder, asking if he really abandoned his own chosen path just to bow down to some pathetic demons. The truth is, the Empire never actually abandoned him. They trusted him, and honored him as a legendary hero this whole time. Asher begs him to snap out of these dark delusions and return to his true self, the hero who was stronger than anyone else, urging him to find his roots again. But then, the old man vanishes, and this massive eye appears. Pay attention, because this thing is the real nightmare behind it all. Asher demands to know what this monster is, and it reveals it's the master of black magic itself, the very thing that turned Crocus into a monster. It laughs, claiming it did nothing but grant a small request. Crocus wanted the power of black magic, so it gave him a little taste of it. Now it is setting him free. It was going to play with him before the kill, but either way, the fun is over now. Blinded by pure rage, Asher charges the eye, but his blade finds Crocus instead. The old man whispers that dying by a friend's hand is better than being a puppet. The two warriors share a final, heavy look, as the old man thanks Asher for finally setting his soul free from the darkness. Finally, he can die in peace. As Crocus fades, he asks to know the boy's name one last time, and Asher reveals he knows exactly who he is, the former captain of Eric. In his final moments, the old man is shocked, wondering how this young boy could possibly know his true identity and secret title. Asher reveals he is his superior, though not as he remembers. Meanwhile, back at the portal, the goblin leader watches the rift begin to shrink. As the rift closes, Asher suddenly emerges alone. Arena asks what happened to Crocus, but the protagonist stays silent, his eyes filled with grief. Later, standing before a grave, Arena admits that even though demons twisted his mind, they can't ignore the hero Crocus once was. They will build a monument to his legacy, ensuring his protection of the Empire is never forgotten, before shifting the conversation to their next move. She tells them Garm wants a meeting, and soon, Asher is dressed in noble gear as the new master of the depths finally arrives. Asher announces that the succession is complete, and the young boy thanks them for coming to honor his fallen master at this tomb. Asher offers a sincere apology, but the young man insists it wasn't his fault. The monster who tried to destroy everything wasn't the master he grew up with. Instead, he is just grateful that Asher helped the old man find his true self before the end. A quick flashback shows Crocus recognize those legendary sword skills immediately. Asher couldn't help but ask how a man of his stature ended up in such a state. He admits the demons preyed on a moment of weakness, twisting his heart, until he realized he was just a fragile human who truly wanted to be strong like the captain. Garm appears as the old man offers a final apology. It is finally time to begin the succession ceremony, even if it is long overdue for everyone. Even the stubborn Garen accepts the change, and with a peaceful smile, the old man says it was truly an honor to meet Asher. He asks for one last private moment with his disciple. Asher agrees, hoping that somehow, their paths might cross again in another life or time. Back in the present, Asher is lost in thought, while Garen notes that overcoming such heavy emotions is never an easy task for anyone. The kid is feeling miserable, but then, you and I won't believe it, a demon just casually strolls into the room like nothing happened. She brought some of the master's old research books, but stops dead when she realizes that both Arena and the protagonist are standing right there. Arena reaches for her blade, but the boy stops her, explaining that this demon is actually his new assistant now she had nowhere to go once the rift closed. Incredibly, her new master did not kill her. He actually took her in and gave her a place to stay in this world. Life in the demon world was brutal, so she is much happier here. Asher watches the strange scene before Garm tells them both to take care. As they finally leave the castle, Arena asks the question we are all thinking: is it really safe to keep a demon as a personal assistant? Asher explains she lacks the strength or malice to actually hurt anyone, and besides, having a companion like her will help Garen escape his crushing sense of loneliness. He definitely has a point there. Suddenly, Kane appears with a squad of soldiers, announcing he is here to personally escort the protagonist to safety. The soldiers suddenly drop to their knees, begging the boy to come with them, because the great emperor himself has requested a private meeting. A short while later, Asher greets the emperor, who tells him to stand tall. He holds the boy's incredible achievements in the highest regard. The emperor admits Asher is the only one he can trust now, as the world's so-called heroes are all falling or disappearing one by one. He must reward Asher for saving the entire empire from ruin, and as a sign of absolute trust, he presents a gift, a mysterious box that only a true hero should possess. Asher is dying to know what is inside, and as he opens the box, the scene suddenly shifts forward a short time later. The spirit asks what exactly the emperor gave him, and Asher reveals it is the legendary box of the empire itself. It is a rare weapon passed down through the ancient royal line. Asher had heard the rumors before, but he never expected to actually find something this valuable in his hands. Reika and Cain arrive, amazed that Asher managed to secure an audience with a ruler that almost nobody is ever allowed to approach. Meanwhile, our boy realizes the time has finally come. He calls out to Reika, telling her there is something very important he needs to say. You and I can see she is stunned he is leaving so soon. He simply tells her he doesn't know when their paths will ever cross again. Alright, you and I are about to dive into Asher's next move. He tells her to focus on her studies while he goes off to finally handle every annoyance that has been bothering him. The girl leans on our hero's shoulder, begging him not to die out there. Asher looks at his companions, grateful he ever met Arena, and thanks her for everything they have been through together. Once everything is settled, he departs the castle as Reika promises that nothing bad is going to happen to them while he is away. He is incredibly strong, and will obviously survive no matter where he goes. In a flashback, the protagonist tells the group he might be a little late, asking them to lock the doors and take good care of the house while he is gone. Arena watches him leave, reminded of the image of her father heading to the battlefield, as if it were absolutely nothing. Those memories have haunted her mind ever since that fateful day. Soon, the spirit asks where they are headed, and Asher says they are making for the kingdom of Arabia. It is a place ruled by an old friend. According to his info, the kingdom has already fallen, and right after that, Tarkin makes his appearance. Asher notes that he seems free now, and the goblin is glad that he fortunately managed to keep his promise after all. He promises to remember the boy and vows they will meet for a rematch. When that happens, he will definitely win, but Asher says he will be ready. They share one final stare. The goblin leader starts running back into the forest. The spirit worries that monsters are still enemies of humans, wondering if letting him go like that was really a good idea. Now, stick with me here. Asher knows he promised not to harm people. Being a true warrior, he will definitely keep his word. Our hero walks through the forest while Cyros watches from above. He thinks the boy is a total mystery, and has been digging deep into his secret past, finding that he is the adopted son of Lord Era, and used to be a common troublemaker. But suddenly, he became a sword master overnight, and was even acknowledged as a disciple by one of the greatest masters alive today. He achieved massive feats in such a short time that it is hard to believe. Cyros wonders if it is even possible for a human being to change that much. Either way, he has been suspicious of him ever since they first started working together. Honestly, he was curious about his true identity, until he stumbled onto some shocking information. He cannot help but wonder who the protagonist really is. The pieces are finally starting to fall into place for Cyros. A few minutes later, the spirit asks what kind of place this kingdom of Gravia really is. Asher explains the kingdom was ruled by a legendary mage who saved the world with transcendental magic. After the Great War, he was gifted land by the emperor, and built that paradise from the ground up. It was more splendid than anywhere else, a true paradise on earth. But then, the kingdom fell, and the great mage simply vanished without a trace. The spirit wonders if he fell like the ruler of the abyss, but the main character says they cannot know that for certain right now. While hooded figures watch everything from a distance, Asher decides they should head there, and see the truth for themselves to find out. You saw that coming, right? Bandits strike, but our boy is ready. He counterattacks instantly, realizing these guys are from the Modolia Guild. Just as suspected, these are the fanatical followers of the goddess Marunia. One of them calls him an imperial sword brat, screaming at him to give up his life, and offer it as a sacrifice to their goddess. Asher tells them he was already planning to hunt down their false god anyway, and he orders them to take him to her right now. Hearing that, the bandits lose it, and charge straight at the young man in a total rage. He moves just as fast, taking down a huge chunk of their group, but even so, they still refuse to quit. Asher calls out to one of them, telling the group that if they do not want to get hurt anymore, they should bring Marunia out. But the man just scoffs, claiming it is unlikely to happen because Asher will be dead by his hands first. Seeing the move, Asher realizes the man has finally revealed himself. His sword skills are far more refined than they were the last time they met. This is the same man who attacked our hero once before, and he is confident he can finally finish him off this time. Suddenly a massive explosion rocks the area. Hivan appears, surprised to find Asher standing right in the middle of all the chaos. He immediately realizes it was the Modolia group attacking the boy. Those assassins actually dared to lay a hand on his precious disciple. Asher asks him to wait, telling the assassin that if he does not want to die, he should speak up and reveal their base immediately. Once the dust finally settles, Ivan notes it has been a long time, yet Asher has not changed at all. He asks about Reika, and Asher confirms she is doing great at the academy. By coincidence, he is headed to the Empire as well, so he might visit her. Plus, bringing the Emperor Marunia's head would definitely earn him some points. The spirit wonders if this man is truly a swordmaster. That aura is unmistakable. Moments later, the two of them stand before a massive gate. Heben is shocked they actually have a hideout this close to the forest. Either way, they are about to wipe them all out in one go. But then, a new figure appears, welcoming them to the sanctuary. Asher freezes as he recognizes the girl. He cannot believe she is still alive. She floats down to the ground, remarking that it has been a very long time since she last saw Heben. She pulls back her hood and asks if he remembers her face. Thanks to the gods, she now has an immortal body that exceeds any swordmaster. She mocks him, asking if he thought she would die like the guard captain. Asher realizes this group is being guided by some dark divine revelation. Years ago, he and Heben were ordered by the Empire to launch a massive operation to wipe this guild off the map for good. After endless battles, they defeated everyone except for one survivor named Shevaneth. Somehow, she made it out alive. When she was finally cornered, she found a way to vanish without leaving a single trace. He is shocked to see her now, but she claims this has nothing to do with him. She is only here for his disciple. Asher draws his blade instantly, but Heben stops him. He wants to settle this personal grudge with his own two hands. Trust me, you and I are about to see a clash for the ages. Their blades collide as Shevaneth asks if he really wants this, and Heben vows to exterminate her and her entire guild once and for all. Alright, you and I are about to watch Asher face a woman who can actually block his aura-charged blade. She mocks him, warning not to underestimate divine power, just because he is an ignorant non-believer. As their swords clash again, Heben just laughs it off, calling her way too fanatical for his taste. But then, pay attention because Asher activates his cheats and sends the poor girl flying back. He calls her out for running away and hiding behind a god, asking if she thinks a swordmaster is some kind of joke. She snaps back that the age of heroes is over, casting a powerful spell that forces them both to their knees. This is bad news. Suddenly, Asher cannot breathe. The divine power is suppressing his superhuman strength, and it is hitting our main character just as hard. Convincing herself of victory, she screams that inferior beings should not dare to defy her great god. She kicks Heben away like trash before approaching Asher, telling him he is lucky to join her holy group. She promises it will end without pain, but then Asher tries to mutter something under his breath. When she leans in to listen, Asher strikes. She let her guard down, and trust me, that was all he needed. She hits the dirt, and Asher admits he does not know how she overpowered Heben, but her trick will not work on him. Rising again, she warns him not to celebrate yet. He has been marked by the divine for eternal torment. Asher is not having it. He draws his spear, and ends the fight right then and there, saying her threats do not matter. They toyed with his fate and hurt his people, and they will pay. Just then, Heben finally wakes up. Heben feels humiliated by the loss, but Asher just tells the man to stay down and get some rest. A mysterious voice calls out, praising Asher's swordmaster's soul. He wants to know where that voice is coming from, but heads for the sanctuary. There could be assassins lurking anywhere, so without wasting a single second, he starts sprinting forward. The spirit didn't hear a thing, but Asher definitely heard the goddess Morowina. He arrives to find more hooded cultists waiting for him. They charge, but Asher summons a massive axe and wipes them out instantly as the spirit senses more movement ahead. They reach a massive door, and after Asher forces it open, he finds a man sitting calmly on a throne. It is the leader, Barossa. Asher is shocked to see him alive since he is the one behind this entire mess. Asher thought he killed him back then, but this is just a borrowed body. He is actually Morowina, yeah. Turns out he is a man. Asher is ready to settle the score once and for all now that they are finally face to face. No wait, the guy says he has no intention of fighting. He is ruined and powerless after his followers failed to capture Asher. Now he is stuck in this pathetic state, barely hanging on in a body that is not even his. Asher asks if he is the one who reincarnated him, but the man says no. He only identified Asher's special soul. He wanted that swordmaster's soul because he believed it was the only thing that could actually save the gods. Maria warns him to be careful. He is not the only one hunting for a soul as powerful as his. Meanwhile, Arania is buried in paperwork, but cannot stop worrying about Asher. Suddenly, Kimmy rushes in with big news. Outside the castle, a carriage stops. A mysterious mage steps out, sensing that the one the sun god wants is close. Meet Berja, the priestess of the sun. It has been a while since she saw Arania, and she is not here for a chat. You and I need to watch this part closely, because Berja leads the sun god's army, representing the most powerful and arrogant religion in the empire. They are known for forcing their faith on others, and are considered a very arrogant religious group. She heard rumors about Asher stopping a demon attack a few days ago, and wants to know exactly where this legendary swordsman is hiding. Back at the sanctuary, the god explains that gods are actually incomplete beings who need help. They live off human faith. When faith dies, the gods lose their power and simply vanish from existence. With a swordmaster's soul, a god could become self-sufficient and gain eternal life, finally breaking free from the need for humans and their faith. It is the ultimate power fantasy. Of course, every god in existence would kill to have that kind of strength. Asher calls it pure arrogance. They want to rule humans while despising the fact that they need them to survive. The man admits he gave his followers everything to capture Asher, but their failure left him in this pitiful state. Asher decides it is finally time to end this. But the old man just starts laughing, looking forward to one final battle. The ground shakes and the temple begins to collapse. He screams for Asher to offer his life to the great Marinia. Suddenly, an attack slams into the old man, leaving Asher completely confused about who just stepped in to help. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next, as Hiban activates his aura and blasts them out of the underground. Alright, stick with me, we're diving into a high-stakes hunt as this priestess demands intel on our main character. Irina isn't having it. She knows handing over Asher's location is a death sentence, and she's definitely not about to betray her friend. She puts the priestess in her place, reminding her that Asher is a national hero, and ordering her to get out immediately. The priestess is stunned, but she backs down. They can't risk a full-blown war with the Empire just yet, so she chooses to retreat. As she leaves, Irina demands answers, but the truth is even weirder. Nobody actually knows why the church is hunting him. They're simply following the sun god's divine orders. But before they leave, they make one thing clear: his word is absolute, and they will track Asher down no matter where he decides to hide. A few minutes later, Irina is left wondering what a god wants with him. Meanwhile, Reika is buried in books, realizing academy life isn't just about the sword. She's got a mountain of difficult subjects to master, and it's definitely going to be a lot harder than she first thought. She questions why she even needs this stuff, only to find our main character is actually mentioned in her textbooks. But then, a sudden knock at the door breaks her focus. It's a summons from Irina. Reika thinks it's incredibly strange since this is her first time ever having a private meeting with the woman, and she's honestly not sure what to expect from this encounter. Irina wants intel on Asher. She suspects the sun god saw something deep inside his soul, something dangerous enough to trigger a divine pursuit that could change everything for them. Reika agrees to help, but she can't help but ask why Irina is so invested in this. What is she really looking for in our boy's past? Watch closely, because right then, Kairos appears from the shadows. He is a top agent from a massive information network that you and I both know is bad news. This secret intelligence group used to be hired by Boros, but now, they are officially serving our boy Asher. Reika is shocked. Kairos explains that Asher gave them a bizarre mission. He wants them to find the whereabouts of the legendary hero. Even Kairos is getting curious about the main character now, urging her to keep talking. Cut to Asher, who's reflecting on Hiban's aura. He's starting to doubt if this man is actually the true swordmaster he claims to be, especially since Hiban himself seems to be doubting his own strength lately. Hiban used to have absolute faith in his talent, which is how he reached the top. But now, for some reason, that legendary confidence has completely vanished. He mentioned yesterday that his long-term doubts are finally clearing up, but there's still something missing from his fighting spirit. And honestly, I'm starting to doubt if your current self is actually at its peak. Asher listens as the man calls himself a weak human. He claims that without help he would have been crushed and killed in the depths below. He believes true mastery means surpassing human limits, using that godlike power to save countless lives and protect the entire world from destruction. He asks if that isn't proof enough of his skill. He thanks Asher, but the dejected look on his face tells a different story. The spirit agrees mastery is about self-control, but Asher's power feels like something unknown, something that doesn't belong to this world. It looks like an artificial force interfered with his soul. The fact that he's being affected by God energy proves his power is totally unstable, unlike the strength you work so hard to gain through years of brutal and honest training. Asher admits he hasn't reached that level yet. Right now, he's just an ordinary guy relying on basic imperial sword techniques to get by. He knows that if he can just recover his original power, he could finally shatter the limits of this body. Just then, that priestess appears. Back at the castle, Kiros asks if they've successfully analyzed the goblin's strange traits and prepared the necessary countermeasures for the upcoming fight. Reika says yes, but even the clan elders were clueless about this information. It's like our main character has already lived through ancient wars. Kairos notices Irina's distraction, but she claims it's nothing. Let's pause here because Irina finally reveals the truth. The sun god is personally pursuing Asher, and they need to know why. The scene shifts back to our boy as he meets the priestess. Trust me, I can already tell this is not going to end well for anyone involved. Asher wonders who she is. Judging by her clothes, she's clearly from the order of the sun god. He definitely knows his stuff. He wants to know her business, but she suddenly drops her staff, grabs his hand, and begs him for his help. Asher is totally confused, but she quickly explains that a nearby village was raided, and all the innocent residents were taken captive by a group of bandits. Dozens of farmers are about to be sold to human traffickers, and she's desperate for him to save them. Asher has a hunch about who's behind this. He asks why a high-ranking priestess of the sun god isn't asking her own powerful holy knights for help, instead of relying on a total stranger like him to do the job. Since her order is the empire's biggest religious group, they have massive military power. She goes silent. Apparently, they're busy with other things and refuse to follow her orders at all. With no other choice, Asher agrees to help. He decides to use this chance to wipe out those damned traffickers and tells her to lead him straight to them. The girl stands up and finally introduces herself. Her name is Verkia, and she seems genuinely grateful. Asher is surprised. He heard this order was oppressive and cruel, but this girl is actually incredibly humble and kind. They find the camp, and Asher realizes these aren't just common bandits. He needs to handle this situation as fast as possible. He tells her he needs a favor. Meanwhile, the guards continue their patrol, completely unaware of the danger. Suddenly, a guard spots him and calls him a brat. You and I both know these guys are about to regret every single life choice they've ever made. Alright, stick with me, because you're about to see this kid unleash a sword strike that levels everything in sight, complete with a massive explosion that even the spirit can't believe. The spirit asks if his aura is back. But Asher reveals the truth. This is actually the Sun Priestess's divine power. The priestess herself has 0 offensive skills, but she's a master healer who can also temporarily boost a warrior's strength to its absolute limit. For a short time, he can wield the raw power of a master swordsman. Seriously, that's just insane. Varia admits she knew he was special, but even she didn't expect him to be this terrifyingly strong. Asher just smiles, saying it's all thanks to her help. Minutes later, they head deep into a cave. Asher realizes this isn't just some underground prison, it looks more like the hidden temple of a dark religious cult. Suddenly, a shadow looms over them, demanding to know who's brave enough to disturb their sacred sanctuary. The man finally reveals himself, and Asher draws his sword, demanding the villagers be released immediately, but the masked freak just laughs, claiming they're actually saviors chosen by a great god. Basically, they're going to free these people by turning them into the world's new saviors. What a twisted way to think. Varia snaps back, saying no matter what order they serve, attacking innocent people is unforgivable. They're nothing but common bandits. Hearing that, the masked man mocks her, asking if her sun god cult even has the right to judge. After all, they've slaughtered countless innocent people under the label of being heretics today in this city. But that's all over now, because the age of those outdated gods has finally come to a bloody end. Torches flare up as the man declares that a new god is about to descend upon this world. Now look closely at this horror, a pile of bodies left as a sacrifice. Asher and Varia are frozen in shock, unable to believe this group could be so evil. Trust me, it's a sight they'll never forget. It's an incredibly cruel and stomach-turning act. But the masked man just laughs, casually saying that the sacrifice of a few is unfortunately necessary for the salvation of many. This slaughter is meant to be a reward, a way to honor their incoming god. Suddenly, an enormous darkness swallows the sky. Varia notices that the altar's dark energy is being pumped directly into the man's body to fuel his transformation. Without moving an inch, Asher realizes that all this bloodshed was done for one purpose: to summon that thing. These aberrations are monsters from another dimension. They aren't divine or demonic, they're just hostile beings with transcendental power, capable of wiping out an entire city in seconds. In the past, a madman used forbidden magic to summon these things, intending to wipe out humanity. And as a result, Oriona's entire homeland, the Dark Elf Forest, was completely destroyed. The massive monster finally begins its full transformation, and you can practically feel the weight of its power crushing the air around them. The spirit screams that they have to stop this now, before its true form fully arrives. Right now, the man has only absorbed a tiny fraction of that monster's power. Asher remembers that in his past life, it took at least 2 master swordsmen just to hold one of these things back. He wonders if he even stands a chance facing this beast alone. The man grows to over 10 feet tall, declaring that the time for judgment has finally come. He launches a massive attack, but luckily, the priestess manages to shield them. Finally, our girl proves she's more than just a healer. You and I both knew she'd step up when things got real. Asher knows this is bad. A simple barrier won't be enough to withstand the raw power of an aberration for long. And just like that, the barrier is shattered in seconds. The girl is paralyzed with shock, but Asher grabs her just in time to dodge a lethal strike. They have 0 chance of winning at this rate. Asher realizes there's only one option left: he has to use divine power. He asks the girl to bless his weapon one more time, so he can charge straight into its vital point. But she's terrified, knowing how dangerous this is. Even so, our hero is determined to finish this, asking her to lend him her strength one last time. With no other choice, she does exactly what Asher asked. He lunges forward, and drives his enhanced weapon deep into the monster's chest. But the darkness is incredibly powerful, and it starts trying to pull him in. He's stuck, nearly devoured by that cursed void, until somehow, against all odds, he pushes through. Incredibly, the kid finds a way to pass right through the monster, tearing it apart. He actually managed to defeat it, and even Asher can't believe what he just did. With the nightmare over, the priestess starts healing him. It's finally finished. Asher thanks her for the healing, but the priestess says she should be the one thanking him. Thanks to his bravery, they avoided an even greater catastrophe today in this place. They take a moment to pray for the villagers who didn't make it. Honestly, this girl has a heart of gold. The next day, she realizes she never even asked for his name. She wants to know who he is, so he can be remembered forever as a hero of her order. When Asher is about to answer, he suddenly changes the subject. He promises to tell her his name when they meet again soon at the great church of the sun god. She smiles and agrees, promising that from this day on, she'll never forget his face. She hands him a special necklace, a sign of the sun god, and a reward for his bravery. It's definitely going to come in handy later. Asher thanks her for everything, and before long, the priestess is back at her camp. But suddenly, a mysterious man calls out to her and enters her tent. He kneels, addressing her as Saint Verkia. She tells him to skip the formalities and get to the point. She asks if he's finished the work he started without her permission. With a smug grin, the man says yes. He mentions that the commoners have all sworn faith to the sun god, boosting the church's power. But Verkia is horrified, asking what the point of faith is if it's forced through violence and death. So what do you and I take from this? No mourning for heretics. You and I will watch a girl enter a world of snakes. He asks if she pities those inferior beings, claiming she lacks resolve. It was the same mess back at the Empire. She choked and failed to get any info just because a captain intimidated her. Honestly, she should have forced a clear answer out of them. Shaking, the nervous girl asks if he is trying to start a war. He can talk big because he is safe, but innocent citizens are the ones who actually die. The commander just brushes it off, saying he knows she worries about all the people. After all, before the gods picked her, she was just a normal girl from a tiny village. Finally, the annoying guy leaves her alone. She is supposed to be the divine representative, but she knows the truth. She has no power. She is just a rural girl from the middle of nowhere. One ordinary day, the sun god chose her and gave her divine power. That single moment allowed her to rise as a priestess of the sun god. But the knights are nobles who find serving a commoner totally unacceptable. They completely ignore her, expanding their own influence through pure violence and fear. They are obsessed with power games, dragging innocent lives into a war meant only for sacrifice. Caught in this nightmare, she breaks down in tears, wondering why God ever chose her. She wishes someone brave like our protagonist was leading these knights. If that happened, the whole story would be different. Meanwhile, the spirit asks the main character Asher if he is really planning to visit the church of the sun god. Maruna warned him to be careful since other gods might be searching for him, and the sun god could be one of them. Getting involved is too dangerous. A little later, Asher stands before a massive gate, realizing this is the entrance to the kingdom of Rabia. Now pay attention, here is how you break into a locked kingdom. The spirit asks how to enter, so Asher uses a secret method a great mage once taught him. A massive barrier protects the citizens here. Getting in without permission is basically impossible for anyone else, but he is an exception since this secret was only passed to trusted friends. The spirit calls this place a true paradise. Suddenly someone attacks. A hooded girl appears and demands to know who is there, while Asher keeps watching her, thinking that she looks incredibly familiar. She warns him that this secret passage is only for authorized people, once again demanding to know who this young man is. But then, Asher remembers exactly who she is, just as two more people suddenly appear on the scene. Everyone stares at our hero until a soldier recognizes him. He is the same guy he saw back in the Empire when they met at the Gate of Swords. He walked in like it was nothing, but what they did not know was that the entire Gate of Swords completely collapsed right after he passed through. Seeing the chaos, the girl is convinced he must be some kind of demon. They all draw weapons to face him, and the spirit asks what his plan is. Drawing his sword, Asher realizes there is no way to avoid this and he will have to deal with them himself. His insane skill catches them off guard, but they waste no time jumping straight back into the fight. Asher blocks the strike easily. He notes that while the guy's stance is decent for an academy student, he is still nowhere near his own disciple's level. The guy is sent flying, and the hooded girl takes her turn to step to the front. You and I need to watch this closely, she is no joke. She uses water magic, demanding to know where he got that gauntlet. Asher reveals it was a gift from his master, Heben. The girl instantly backs off. She had heard rumors that the legendary Heben had a student out there, so he must be that swordsman everyone has been talking so much about. Confident as ever, Asher confirms it. His master was the one who showed him the way to this secret path. To put it simply, he is here to meet the Lord of Rabia, who happens to be his master's close friend. Things calm down, and the girl explains they are investigating why the kingdom of Rabia suddenly fell. She introduces the guy beside her as Puan, a swordsman from the kingdom of Ryan. The other is Reuben, a historian, and lastly she says her own name is Badri, the mage. Asher guesses that she is actually the Lord's disciple. He had heard that the Lord had a student, and she is probably here searching for her missing master right now. Badri is shocked he knows that. It is true, she is the student of the Lord of the kingdom of Rabia. The spirit asks how he knew, and Asher remembers seeing her as a child. The archmage raised an adopted daughter to be his successor, and now that girl has grown into a very beautiful woman. She explains that she stayed away from the kingdom for years, dreaming of a life of freedom beyond the castle walls. Her master was like a father, but he was so strict about magic that they ended up fighting many times because of it. Eventually, she secretly left the kingdom, hiding her identity to live an ordinary life among the people. But then as time passed, she heard rumors that the kingdom had fallen and joined this group to finally find out the truth. Juan asks why it fell so suddenly, but she doesn't know. She is determined to find her master and hear the story for herself. At that moment they reach a door and she says it is the entrance to the kingdom. Asher tells them to stand guard while he goes in first to check for any monsters or demons. He pushes the door open and freezes, completely stunned by what he sees. The city looks totally normal. Asher asks if this is really a fallen kingdom, while Badri notes that the kingdom of Rabia looks exactly the same as it always did. Let's look closer, because something is wrong. Asher feels a threatening presence, even as Puan asks the stall owner how much the fruit costs. The old man is not friendly at all, and the residents refuse to speak. This paradise is hiding a secret that might change everything, but what they did not know was the true cost. Alright, stick with me because we are diving into a city where the people have literally lost their souls. Asher looks closer and realizes these people are already dead, just mindlessly repeating the mundane actions of their past lives. This is a city of the walking dead. Pan is horrified, but even the battle-hardened Asher has never seen anything this bizarre. Then Reuben drops the truth: the Archmage wanted to create the one true paradise right here on Earth. He dreamed of a world where magic would handle every human need automatically without any effort. He wanted a kingdom free from all hardships, but magic consumed them instead, stripping away their minds and their lives, until only empty shells remained. The apprentice admits her master only wanted peace, but they fell into ruin in the most horrifying way possible. This was the price of his arrogance, challenging the gods themselves. Finally, the group reaches the palace gates. Badri says her master is inside while Reuben warns of tight security, but Pan just wants to keep moving forward. Suddenly, a guard appears behind him. The mage barely saves Pan, warning that these empty shells still hunt intruders. The guards no longer recognize her as an apprentice, they only see enemies. And then, the attack begins naturally. Asher strikes down waves of soldiers, but no matter how many fall, they just keep getting back up to fight. But pay attention here, because this is where the battle reaches a whole new level of intensity. Asher raises his staff to cast a massive barrier, telling everyone else to run inside the castle while he keeps the army at bay. The spirit asks if this legendary weapon is his imperial reward. It is a rare treasure from the Emperor's vault. This staff was built for war to lock down enemy armies, but this temporary spell obviously will not last long. They sprint for the castle, but of course, someone trips. At that exact moment, the barrier completely shatters. Reuben is left outside, and the guy looks absolutely doomed. The group realizes they have left him behind. The barrier is gone, and there is no protection left. Now someone has to go back and save him. Suddenly, the boy walks in as if nothing happened, apologizing for being late. He barely escaped with his life, though honestly, I have no idea how he pulled it off. As they push deeper into the castle, Reuben notices something is off. Why is the main character acting so strange? I know what you are thinking, and yeah, things are about to get way darker, while every single soldier outside is completely wiped out from existence during their infiltration. Badger points out the central office where her master researches the Empire's rebirth. Then, thick smoke fills the room. The spirit asks Asher if he feels it, and he replies that he smells the stench of something decomposing. The girl rushes through the door and freezes in shock. Her master has been dead for a long time. Badri collapses in tears, but then the skeleton starts talking, telling her to shut her mouth. No one can believe their eyes. The skeleton demands to know where she has been all this time. He claims his corpse is just an illusion. For an archmage, a trick like this is basically child's play. He tells her she must have seen the ruins, but those were just a distraction for his enemies. The real citizens are safe in an underground city. Relief washes over the girl, knowing everyone is finally okay. Pan asks why he faked the kingdom's destruction. It was the demons a high-ranking monster is hunting Rabia. Dealing with that alone was impossible, so he staged the fall to buy time and save his people. None of that matters now because his daughter is home. He apologizes for being distant for so long. He looks at our main character and asks if he was Hiban's student. He has questions for the boy. After telling the others to leave so they can rest, The skeleton turns his gaze toward our hero, finally, addressing him as the captain of the guard from a lifetime ago. Asher isn't surprised. He knew the Archmage would recognize him the second they locked eyes. The Archmage senses his soul is the same. This nightmare was caused by a curse tied to hero powers. The truth is, he destroyed his own kingdom and became undead. He lied to his student to protect her. He wanted to be a benevolent lord using magic to protect his people and bring them ultimate comfort. But the power backfired, draining every human soul and turning his entire kingdom into a graveyard of ruins. He realized too late that the legendary power meant to save the world is actually a dangerous curse that brings nothing but total destruction. Asher admits Hiban also doubted his own path, questioning if his legendary sword skills were truly right. The Archmage nods, reminding him of the dark fates that have consumed every legendary hero in history. Valbar's mind twisted until he turned into a demon, while the Master of the Depths betrayed the Empire to join forces with the darkness of the underworld. Now imagine what happens when that hero power is corrupted. You and I are looking at a disaster, far bigger than any demon king. Alright, let's dive into the moment a legend sacrifices everything to forge the sword that will finally end the Age of Heroes. This blade is called Fenra, and it has the terrifying ability to absorb a hero's power, becoming the only weapon that can stop this era. The Archmage has one final request for the captain of the guard. He wants him to use this sword to end his own life today. Asher stands there in shock, wondering if he really has to take the life of another dear friend with his own hands once again. After a heavy silence, our boy apologizes and drives the dagger into the Archmage, finally freeing him from his long and painful burden. As the magic fades, Asher realizes the illusion is disappearing, as everything is being sucked into the heart of that blessed blade. The old man returns to his true form one last time, thanking our hero before he finally passes away in peace. Asher asks if this is goodbye, and he confirms that tomorrow he will vanish along with his kingdom, leaving his student behind forever. Shifting the subject, the master expresses his gratitude and asks Asher if he has actually gone through a process of reincarnation. Asher explains it is something like that, but he does not think the god Marunia was the direct cause of his sudden return. The Archmage tells him to seek out the elves of the Red Forest in the far north to find the answers he needs. These high elves belong to a different clan and possess sacred abilities that allow them to read and even heal a person's soul. Now pay attention here, this is where we learn that this forest is also the domain where Raya currently rules her territory. The master warns him to check if she is safe, as he heard rumors that northern goblins were preparing to invade the Empire's borders. But what he did not know is that Asher does not even want to meet her, despite the master insisting she is a noble companion. She chose to live in that hostile land to protect humanity, and the master is certain that he and Ravinia will eventually reconcile. A short time later, the others gather in the room, happy to see that the Archmage has returned to his original form. Badri mentions she could not find Asher, and her father explains he has already left to carry out Heban's orders before the gate closes. With demon surveillance getting worse by the day, the king realizes he can no longer protect this kingdom from the shadows. His plan now is to take refuge with his people in a hidden underground city. When the girl asks when they will meet again, the old man falls silent but tells her not to worry, handing her a mysterious amulet. He explains that with this pendant, she can use barrier magic to eventually become an excellent and powerful mage. The girl is thrilled with the gift, and the old man says it was a pleasure meeting all her friends before the kingdom closes. He tells his apprentice to have a good journey, watching her leave before he is finally left alone in the dark room. Suddenly Asher appears, but the Archmage says his work is done now that he has officially handed over all his magic. He tells the captain to leave as well, reminding him that all humans turn to dust, so there is no reason to be sad. Asher says a silent prayer for him, and leaves the castle, while Reuben watches the tragedy unfold, calling the situation very sad. A kingdom that was once a paradise has met its end. But Asher suddenly tells him to shut his mouth. You saw that too, right? Asher suddenly attacks Reuben, calling him a filthy demon who has been hiding among them this whole time. Reuben just laughs, dropping his act and praising our boy for being intelligent enough to notice his presence in this form. He says Asher is perceptive for seeing through a disguise that completely hid his demonic magic from everyone else in the kingdom. The spirit is shocked it sensed nothing, but Asher recognizes that voice. It belongs to the demon who caused the death of Krokos. The demon introduces himself as Bafula, a supervisor of the demon realm whose name is recorded in the forbidden books of the Empire's library. Known as a god of the demon realm, he is likely the one Krokos was searching for to obtain his forbidden dark magic. Raising his sword, our hero tells the monster to get straight to the point. Bafula laughs, claiming he only came to see this paradise, but found the Archmage's magic to be nothing but a complete failure. He says he is interested in that new sword, and would be very happy if the protagonist handed the weapon over to him right now. With its interesting abilities, destroying the human kingdom would become a much easier task for the forces of the demon realm. Obviously, Asher is not giving it up, and he charges forward to land a blow that incredibly has no effect at all. Bafula mocks him, saying that mortal strength and mastery of skills mean absolutely nothing to a true god of the demon realm. Asher is sent flying with a single move before the demon opens a portal, saying he is done playing around for today. He warns our boy to stay sharp, because next time they meet, he is definitely taking that sword for himself no matter what. As the demon vanishes, Asher lets out a laugh, realizing he has never felt such an overwhelming level of power before. A short time later, the spirit asks how he is feeling, and if he knows the truth about this Bafula creature. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens when he faces this ancient creator of the demon realm. Alright, you and I are diving into a world where even death cannot hide our hero's true spirit from the eyes of a demon observer who sees every timeline. This mysterious Bafula knows all about Asher's past life, recognizing a man who spent decades doing nothing but mastering the blade without ever wavering. But then Asher realizes something terrifying: this observer might be the one pulling all the strings. If this enemy is hunting down past heroes and teaming up with the Demon King to crush the kingdom, then pure sword skill just will not cut it anymore. What Asher needs now is overwhelming, god-tier power. Right then, a massive shadow looms over him, and Asher cannot believe his eyes because that monster is still breathing. It is that same bandit from before, now mutated by an aberration's dark energy, claiming that the power of a god cannot be stopped by someone as pathetic as our hero. Asher draws his steel immediately, but the shadow just growls that this time it is going to make sure he stays dead. One single punch sends Asher flying backward as he realizes his body is still completely drained from the last life or death battle. The monster screams that the end is here, preparing to reach its final form as a new god, but suddenly a voice cuts through the air asking who is causing a mess in her forest. A young girl steps into the clearing, and the monster arrogantly calls itself a god, ordering her to stay out of its way. But she is not impressed at all, asking how a disgusting little aberration dares to pretend it is a deity, before telling it to get lost. Watch closely now, because as the creature charges in a blind rage, the spirit senses a terrifying aura coming from this calm, mysterious girl. With one effortless strike, she obliterates the beast, declaring that within this forest, her authority and her power are absolute. An explosion rocks the area, and as the smoke clears, the girl walks up to Asher to ask if the traveler is still in one piece. She recognizes his soul instantly, and Asher looks back, calling her the nameless god, a being he has not seen in a very long time. She realizes he was once the legendary captain of the guard, but she is totally confused as to why he looks like a kid now. Meanwhile, nearby soldiers hear the blast echoing through the trees, and realize something massive was just destroyed deep inside the forest. The priestess watches the tree line, sensing Asher might be there, as the commander orders his entire force to change course and hunt him down. It is clear the search area is shrinking, and the walls are closing in on our hero. Later at a small house, Asher starts to recover his strength thanks to the girl's strange help. As she goes to get food, the spirit reveals her true identity. She was once a high goddess, with the same status as the sun god of Marijuana. I know what you are thinking: why is a goddess living in a hut? Well, Asher explains she is the only deity who ever chose to walk among humans. By abandoning her divine name and status, she lost her heavenly abilities to live a normal life. However, inside her own forest domain, she still holds the power of a creator, and she knows Asher has lost everything to the demons. Asher just sighs, admitting that even after being reborn, it seems his life is nothing but one long cycle of misery. But the goddess disagrees, telling him he is the only normal soul in a twisted world, and his pure heart is exactly why others are so jealous. That is the real reason she recognized his worth, and chose him all those years ago. In his past life, Asher did not believe in gods, but he was always wary of her, even when she offered to make him her powerful apostle. He turned her down because he wanted power he earned himself, and that stubborn pride is exactly why she wanted him by her side. She has seen thousands fall to the temptation of easy strength, but Asher never hesitated to follow his own lonely path. She still finds him completely captivating and asks him one more time if he is ready to finally become her apostle in this life. Asher just smiles, saying she has not changed at all, but then a heavy knock at the door ruins the moment the commander has arrived. The goddess opens the door to find the Solar Knight standing there, and they demand to know if she is hiding a man named Asher. She casually says yes and calls Asher out to meet his visitors, making him wish she was a much better liar. The commander grins like a predator, drawing his sword and declaring that their long game of hide and seek is finally over. Our hero knew this confrontation was coming, and with the priestess watching, the trap is set. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next.